Chapter 241 Agreement reached treasure pole. What kind of deal? The bearded old man felt a surge of alertness in his heart. This junior master was known for his perverse temperament, and no one could really know what he was thinking. But his methods had always been strange and sharp. In the past, he had made quite a name for himself with his ruthless tactics. Even now, as a cripple, he was still greatly feared. You want to know what the 10,000-year change really is, don't you? Just let me out, and I will tell you. I'm afraid that won't do, Junior Master, the bearded elder said with some difficulty. The disaster you caused back then was too great. That person had originally intended to have you executed, but your fellow disciples pleaded vehemently on your behalf, and that is the only reason you were spared. However, that individual still sends someone every 3 years to confirm that you're still imprisoned. If I were to release you, it would be difficult to explain to the Sword Pavilion. This is not difficult at all. When the time comes, you can just claim I am already dead, forge some evidence, and deceive them. Aren't you the leader of a sect, capable of handling even this minor task? The shadow said. The bearded old man remained silent. After more than 10 seconds, he finally spoke. Junior Master, you are now old and frail. Why do you insist on leaving? Wouldn't it be nice to spend your remaining years inside the sect? If you think this place is uncomfortable, I can arrange a more comfortable residence for you. Enough nonsense. After being imprisoned here for decades, I have had enough. In a word, will you release me or not? The shadow said impatiently. The bearded old man fell silent again, his face showing a hint of hesitation. Seeing this, the shadow continued, Little Jiangwen, I know you are honest and always prioritize the sect. I can tell you clearly that this 10,000-year change is a major event that will determine the life or death of our Sword Pavilion. If we do not prepare in advance, not to mention maintaining our current status in Jizhou, just surviving without being suppressed and swallowed would be good. More seriously, it could even lead to someone attacking us, completely destroying us and erasing our legacy. Junior Master, are you serious? The bearded old man was shaken. I swear on your Grandmaster's name, there is no falsehood. The bearded old man had heard from his deceased master that his junior uncle, in his entire life, had been perverse and fearless. He respected no one and had never looked up to anyone. Except, he held great respect for the Grandmaster who had rescued him from the chaos and raised him. Now that he had even invoked the Grandmaster's name, it might well be that what he had just said was probably not an exaggeration. The bearded old man's heart was suddenly plunged into struggle. The shadow did not urge him further, letting him think for himself. The cave fell silent again, with only the faint sound of flowing water. After a long while, the bearded old man's face suddenly firmed up as if he had made a decision. He asked, Junior Master, what do you intend to do after you leave? What can I do? Old fellow, I am just a cripple now with not many years left. I just want to go out and walk around in my last few years, see what the outside world looks like. Being in this cave for decades, I have no idea what it's like outside anymore. Hearing the sadness in the junior master's voice, the bearded old man felt a surge of remorse. The junior master's current plight, although self-inflicted, had indeed been locked up by him personally all those years ago. Seeing him like this, he too felt uneasy. Moreover, the junior master was right. Now him being near his end and with his cultivation completely ruined, even if he really did leave, he could no longer cause trouble. With this thought, the bearded old man finally made up his mind. Junior Master, I can let you out, but you must promise me a few things. Of course. Seeing the bearded old man finally agreed, the figure's heart surged with excitement. Hidden in the darkness, a face revealed a sinister and ferocious smile. Lu Qing, who was far away in Jizhou, naturally had no idea about this. At the moment, he was leisurely fishing by the river. The fishing spot he was at was the Miracle Fish fishing spot. Next to him, Little Li was eagerly watching the float. During his days in the county, Little Li's days had been good, consuming a lot of fresh fish every day. However, he had not been able to eat strange fish again. Thus, he was dearly missing it. Little Lee, don't be anxious. We haven't fished here in so long. The strange fish should have gathered again by now, Lu Qing said with a smile as he rubbed Little Lee's head. Little Lee rubbed against Lu Qing's hand and continued to stare at the float. Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh and began to take things seriously. The little guy was so expectant. He couldn't let him be disappointed. Perhaps because it had been a while since he last fished here. The strange fish truly had refreshed. Before long, Lu Qing felt the fishhook, baited with blood apricots, gently move, followed by the float suddenly sinking, and a strong pulling force transmitted from the fishing rod. However, with Lu Qing's current strength, such an ambush no longer affected him at all. He held the fishing rod steadily in his hands, a smile appearing on his face. This fishhook is a newly forged 1,000 refined fishhook. If you can pull it away, you really are capable. Indeed, this time returning home, Lu Qing had upgraded his fishing rod again. The fishing line was still made of snow silkworm silk, which proved to be extremely durable. Having used it for so long, Lu Qing had never seen it break. During his time in the county, he had also looked for other types of fishing lines, intending to buy some for backup. But he found that none were as good as the snow silkworm silk. Perhaps, he had yet to find a fishing line better than the snow silkworm silk, so he hadn't replaced it. What he mainly replaced was the fish hook. Previously, Lu Qing had asked Ma Gu to custom order some refined iron fish hooks in the county, but he still felt they were somewhat lacking. After all, no matter how good the fishing gear, fishermen always feel it could be further upgraded. Coincidentally, Lu Qing had been spending his days in Zhu Xian workshop, so he simply forged a batch of 1,000 refinement-level fish hooks. Lu Qing still remembered the indescribable expressions on Master Lin's and his apprentices' faces when he forged those fish hooks. Perhaps, in the eyes of these masters, using 1,000 refinement-level iron to make fish hooks was simply too wasteful. But out of respect for him, they refrained from commenting. After switching to the 1,000 refined fish hooks, Lu Qing's fishing rod had ascended to another level. Under the scope of superpower, a faint golden light emerged, truly qualifying it as a treasure. With such a treasure pole, Lu Qing was not at all worried that mere strange fish could trouble it. And indeed, just as he expected. Although the fish below were strong, they were now completely insignificant in front of the present Lu Qing. Before long, a beautiful form was pulled by him into midair. Chapter 242. Group of Strange Fish, Lurker. Is that a red moon carp? Lu Qing was surprised as he looked at the beautiful red figure on the fishhook. It was, astonishingly, the first strange fish he had ever caught, a red moon carp. Moreover, its size was much bigger than the one he caught the first time. It weighed at least 3 or 4 pounds. No wonder he felt that the strength of this strange fish was far greater than before. It turned out to be such a big fellow. Ow, ow, ow. Watching the red moon carp floating midair, Little Lee got excited. Pacing back and forth on the shore, wagging its tail, it appeared very impatient. If it weren't for its great dislike of water, Lu Qing suspected that the little creature would have pounced already. Don't worry, I'll take it down for you now. After calming Little Lee, Lu Qing unhooked the fish and tossed it over. Swoosh! Before the fish even hit the ground, Little Lee snatched it and ran off to the nearby grass to feast. While eating, it even twitched its ears, looking extremely happy. Watching the little guy enjoy its meal, Lu Qing shook his head and then continued to fish. He actually wanted to taste the red moon carp as well, given it was one of the top 10 delicacies. He had once tasted the golden loach, another of the top 10, and still remembered its flavor vividly. However, Lu Qing also knew it was impossible to snatch food from Little Lee's mouth. If he really did that, the little guy would stare at him with its sad big eyes all day. So, he honestly continued fishing, hoping to catch another one. Perhaps hearing the anticipation in Lu Qing's heart, not long after Little Lee had eaten only half of its fish, there was another bite on the hook. Could it really be that, after not fishing for half a month, the strange fish have started to flock here? Feeling the force transmitted from the fishing rod, Lu Qing was very excited. This pulling force could only belong to a strange fish. What was more key was that he found this force very familiar. After struggling for a while and pulling up the fish, Lu Qing got even more excited. Indeed, another red moon carp? Could there be a school of them below? Looking at the slightly smaller red moon carp on the hook compared to the previous one, Lu Qing couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. He quickly unhooked the fish and put it into the bucket, then baited the hook with 2 more blood apricots and cast it again. Then, after a quarter of an hour, the bobber sank again. A school of red moon carps has really come? Seeing the 3rd red moon carp he hooked, Lu Qing was delighted, but also felt something was off. Even if he hadn't come fishing for half a month, there shouldn't have been so many strange fish suddenly. There must be a reason behind it. Lu Qing felt that it might be necessary to take some time to investigate this. However, while he was puzzled, he continued to seize the rare opportunity and kept fishing. Finally, after catching 2 more red moon carps, the bobber stopped moving altogether. It was unclear whether the red moon carps below had been fished out, or if the constant fishing scared the others away. But Lu Qing was very satisfied already. This fishing trip had yielded 5 red moon carps. Excluding the one eaten by Little Li, there were still 4 left, enough for him, Little Yen, and his master to taste. Little Li, you've already eaten the biggest one and are full enough. I can only give you 2 more, and they have to wait until tonight. Seeing Little Li's slightly longing look, Lu Qing quickly said. Hearing this, Little Li felt a bit disappointed. But it touched its own little belly and felt a bit full already. Waiting until evening seemed okay. The most crucial part was that it could eat 2 at once tonight. Thinking this, it suddenly perked up again. With excitement in their hearts, a man and a beast started making their way home. As for Little Yen, the little fellow was recognizing more characters now, and her studies had become correspondingly heavier. Every morning, she had to go to Half Mountain Small Courtyard to receive teaching from the elder doctor. So if Lu Qing went fishing in the morning, Little Yen couldn't accompany him. Sitting on Lu Qing's shoulder, Little Li's tail swayed leisurely. However, upon their return to the village entrance, its ears twitched, and suddenly it stretched out a paw to tug at Lu Qing's hair. "What's wrong, Little Li?" Lu Qing asked. The little creature gestured, and Lu Qing was slightly shocked, but his face remained calm. "It's nothing, let's head home first." Speeding up a little, Lu Qing got home, put down their things, and then looked at Little Li. "Little Li, did you sense a strange and strong presence lurking nearby, one not from our village?" Little Li nodded its head. Lu Qing's face immediately took on a serious expression. Ever since he had learned about Little Li's special sensing ability, he had instructed it to memorize the aura of everyone in the village. This way, if a stranger approached, it could detect them immediately. Now, with a mysterious martial arts expert lurking nearby, he felt uneasy. The first thing that came to mind was an assassin from 7 Killings Tower. Honestly, since finding out about the 7 Killings order issued by the 7 Killings Tower against him, Lu Qing was quite perturbed. Being so publicly targeted for assassination, and spoken of as if he should feel honored, such behavior had maximized Lu Qing's disgust for 7 Killings Tower. "I hope it's not what I'm thinking otherwise." A chill appeared on Lu Qing's face. "Little Li, let's go and meet this fellow." According to the location sensed by Little Li, the person was hiding on a small hill north of the village, observing the village's movements. Following Little Li's guidance, Lu Qing slipped out from behind the house, entered the bamboo forest behind the mountain, and after making a detour to avoid being seen, he swiftly headed in that direction. With his divine soul power and a faint divine soul talisman framework formulated, Lu Qing, if he truly concealed his aura, could remain undetected even by ordinary innate realm experts. The cloth-clothed youth who possessed an exotic treasure couldn't see through his disguise either. As for Little Li, with its invisibility talent, hiding its tracks was even more secretive. Thus the mysterious figure lurking near the village, without a line of sight, did not notice Lu Qing and Little Li approaching at all. Still confidently hidden, he lay atop a large tree, quietly observing Juli village not far below. He was very confident in his skills of concealment. As long as he didn't expose himself, no one could find him. Once, he had assassinated a prince of a commandery by hiding under the prince's bed for a full day and night, undetected by the prince's guard, who was a martial arts grandmaster. Eventually, he found an opportunity, not only killed the prince but also escaped pursuit, breaking free successfully. If even a martial arts grandmaster couldn't detect him, then this Lu Qing definitely couldn't perceive his whereabouts. After all, based on the information from the Hidden Dragon list, he was merely at the initial realm of inner organs. While it was surprising that someone at the initial realm of inner organs could make it onto the Hidden Dragon list, everyone knew that the rankings on the Hidden Dragon list only represented the probability of breaking through to the innate realm in the future, not combat strength. Those ranked in the top 10 on the Hidden Dragon list might not necessarily defeat those ranked below. This young man's placement on the Hidden Dragon list must be due to his unmatched cultivation talent. After all, being at the realm of inner organs at 17 was terrifying in terms of potential. But potential just means potential, not strength. 17 and at the realm of inner organs was indeed impressive and promised a boundless future. However, as long as he hadn't fully matured, he was just a prodigy. No matter how formidable this young man was, he couldn't possibly possess intuition stronger than a martial arts grandmaster to discover his trace. Just when the mysterious person was brimming with confidence, suddenly, he heard a voice from below. "My friend, would you prefer to come down yourself, or shall I personally pull you down?" Chapter 243, Serious Injury and Intelligence. What? The lurker in the tree was deeply shaken. He had never anticipated someone appearing suddenly beneath the tree where he hid, uttering the truth of his whereabouts. Yet he had not detected even the slightest sign beforehand. The lurker dared not move an inch. He was unclear whether Lu Qing had truly discovered his location or was merely bluffing. He was exceedingly confident in his stealth technique, so a glimmer of hope lingered in his heart. However, in the next moment he realized he was wrong. Seeing that after his call the person in the tree still showed no intention of revealing himself, Lu Qing knew the arrival had ill intentions. He looked up, only to see dense foliage lush and thriving like a pavilion, which completely obscured the lurker's figure from view. But possessing divine soul power and having condensed a trace of God's soul rune framework, his sensing ability far exceeded that of an ordinary martial arts grandmaster. Even without Little Li's guidance, he could clearly sense exactly where the breath was hiding. Without the slightest hesitation, a fist-sized stone he had casually picked up along the way appeared in his hand, which he threw with a hidden weapon technique violently upwards. With Lu Qing's current strength, a burst of chi blood enabled even an ordinary stone to contain formidable power. Boom! The stone, accelerated to the extreme and imbued with immense impact, instantly burst through the treetop. Leaves and broken branches fluttered down, and a figure fell from the tree, rolling and then standing on the ground, arms hanging down, trembling slightly, and staring at Lu Qing with a face full of shock. Shocked that Lu Qing could indeed see through his trail, and surprised by Lu Qing's decisiveness. Wasn't the rumor that this young hero possessed a chivalrous heart? Why had he attacked so ruthlessly without even clarifying his identity? Recalling the situation just now, the lurker was still frightened. Lu Qing's attack had been too sudden and had accurately located his position. He had had no time to dodge and could only take the hit forcefully. Now his arms were injured, aching and numb, and it would take at least a quarter of an hour to recover. Thank goodness I had put on soft armor beforehand. Otherwise this blow would have probably crippled my hands. The lurker was grateful in his heart and no longer dared to underestimate Lu Qing. Merely a common stone tossed out possessed an attack power not inferior to that of a martial arts grandmaster. This young man before him was definitely not an ordinary martial artist of the internal organ realm. Not to mention, he still couldn't understand how Lu Qing had discovered his whereabouts. Finally willing to come down, huh? I thought you'd rather die than leave that tree, Lu Qing said indifferently. The lurker before him was dressed in worn-out clothes, with an ordinary appearance like a village youth you could see anywhere. If he walked in a village, no one would suspect him of being out of place. However, Lu Qing wasn't concerned about his appearance. The top assassins of the Seven Killings Tower all mastered the bone and muscle-changing secret technique and could effortlessly alter their looks. If this person were sent by the Seven Killings Tower, his current appearance might not be his true face. Therefore, Lu Qing activated his superpower without hesitation. Quickly, a rich red superpower light emerged from the body of the young man. Lin An, a heavenly gang assassin of the Seven Killings Tower, codenamed Shadow, cultivation. Small success in postnatal internal realm, proficient in various assassination secret techniques, especially skilled in the art of stealth. After the Seven Killings order was issued by the Seven Killings Tower to obtain the sex reward, he intended to assassinate Yu and vie for a position among the 12 heavenly gang. Indeed, an assassin from the Seven Killings Tower, Lu Qing's gaze turned icy. Feeling the chill emanating from Lu Qing, the assassin Shadow from the Seven Killings Tower was startled. Yet his face showed indignation. "What do you mean by this attack? I was merely resting in the tree. How have I offended you to warrant such a lethal response? If I didn't have some skill, I would have been killed by your unwarranted attack." Faced with Shadow's feigned angry interrogation, Lu Qing's expression remained unchanged. He calmly looked at the man. "An assassin from the Seven Killings Tower? Is this all you can do? Since you dare to assassinate me, are you prepared to die?" Shadow was shaken inside. It had only been a few days since the Seven Killings order was issued by his sect. Yet Lu Qing, located in such a remote place, already knew about it. Where did he get the information? His face still showed confusion, though. "What Seven Killings Tower? Are you mistaken? I'm just passing by with no ill intentions." However, seeing that he was still playing dumb, Lu Qing no longer wished to speak further. He stomped the ground, kicking up the soil, and in a flash, he was in front of Shadow. His right hand clenched into a fist, compressing the air with a tiger's roar. He unleashed a ferocious tiger heart punch straight at the opponent's chest. Feeling the might of this punch, a great alarm struck Shadow. Although he was unaware of how Lu Qing could be so sure that he was an assassin from the Seven Killings Tower, he knew that this was not the time to dwell on this issue. Lu Qing's punch was too terrifying. If he showed weakness any longer, he truly might be killed on the spot. No longer bothering with his disguise, Shadow erupted in chi blood throughout his body, and a short sword appeared in his hand, thrusting straight at Lu Qing's fist. Lu Qing's punch was indeed fearsome, almost leaving him no chance to avoid it, but Shadow also had his methods. Whether it was overconfidence on the part of the other or forgetting to bring weapons, Lu Qing was fighting him unarmed. His short sword was coated with a lethal poison, and if it could pierce even slightly through the fist, Lu Qing would surely die. Chapter 244. Facing the counterattack of Shadow, Lu Qing's expression remained calm. As the short sword was about to stab his fist, he suddenly lowered his shoulder and dodged the blade. Then he flicked his finger, hitting right on the surface of the sword. What seemed to be a casual flick contained astonishing power, causing his already injured arm to tremble wildly with a numb sensation, nearly losing his grip on the short sword. Taking advantage of this opening, Lu Qing converted his fist to a palm and struck his opponent's chest. A powerful burst of palm force erupted, accompanied by a severe cracking sound of bones. Shadow was sent flying backward until he crashed into a large tree more than 10 meters away, shaking down countless leaves before stopping. He lay on the ground, life or death uncertain, defeated by a single move. Such a distinguished heavenly gang-level assassin from Seven Killings Tower, a powerful martial artist at small success of the internal organ realm, was defeated by Lu Qing in one stroke. Yet there was not the slightest hint of triumph on Lu Qing's face. Looking at the motionless assassin on the ground, he flipped his hand, producing another stone. With a fierce whooshing sound, Lu Qing threw the stone without hesitation, aiming directly at Shadow's head. As expected, when the stone was about to smash Skull's head, Shadow, who was originally pretending to relax to take advantage of Lu Qing, suddenly moved, dodged the stone instantly, and fled into the forest to escape for his life. However, before he had run a few meters, another whooshing sound came. Boom! This time, Shadow couldn't dodge and was hit squarely in the back by the stone thrown by Lu Qing. Despite wearing soft armor, Shadow could not withstand the tremendous force, spewing out blood, which seemed to contain fragments of internal organs. Thud! Such a severe injury was unbearable even for a strong murderer at the internal organ realm. Shadow's body, like a broken sack, fell to the ground and rolled several times before becoming motionless. Stop playing dead. You have armor on. My strike may have incapacitated you but was not enough to kill you, Lu Qing said, looking at the motionless Shadow. He slowly approached, stopping 7 steps away, and spoke indifferently. Shadow made no move. Lu Qing did not get angry, but flipped his hand again, holding another stone. Guess this time. Can your head dodge my stone? Cough, cough. Mr. Lu Qing, you really are cautious, even at this stage, Shadow responded, knowing that continuing to pretend was futile. He gave a bitter smile, struggling to sit up, leaning against a large tree, and looked miserably at Lu Qing. Although I don't like Seven Killings Tower, I have to admit, you dark rats have some tricks. One can easily be caught off guard and ambushed by you. Lu Qing watched the severely injured Shadow, but still did not approach further. Mr. Lu Qing, you really are powerful. Despite your young age, to have such strength. No wonder Tianji Building ranked you 29th on the most recent Hidden Dragon list. Shadow looked at Lu Qing as though he were looking at a monster. He had seen the rankings on the Hidden Dragon list before and, like everyone else, had thought Lu Qing was listed for his unparalleled martial arts talent. But now he knew it was not just Lu Qing's martial arts talent that was formidable. What was even more terrifying was his combat talent. That punch was truly astonishing. Perhaps even a martial arts grandmaster proficient in boxing couldn't compare. A novice in the initial realm of internal organs executing boxing skills comparable to a grandmaster. Such an unbelievable feat actually existed. Shadow felt his belief in martial arts being almost destroyed. What's more important was that Lu Qing's intellect was also incredibly meticulous. His numerous feints and tricks not only failed to draw out a single weakness from Lu Qing but made him seem more elusive than a veteran experienced over hundreds of years. Was this really just a teenager? Shadow's mind couldn't help but flash with this thought. Enough, less nonsense. Do you know why I'm not killing you now? Faced with Shadow's flattery, Lu Qing's expression remained unchanged. That must be because I have something you want. Shadow gave a wry smile. Indeed, nodded Lu Qing. Talking with a smart person saves trouble. I don't want to know much. Just spit out the whereabouts of your Seven Killings Tower, and I might leave your body intact, allowing you to die without pain. You want to know the whereabouts of our Seven Killings Tower? Shadow's eyes widened in shock for a moment. Then, as if he thought of something, a look of disbelief crossed his face. You wouldn't be thinking of attacking our Seven Killings Tower for revenge, would you? Lu Qing did not answer, but the calmness on his face gave Shadow his answer. He suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha! Indeed, the courage of youth knows no fear, the ignorance of the fearless. Young people are so spirited, daring to have designs on our Seven Killings Tower. So, will you give me the address or not? I will, of course. Shadow's face showed a mocking smile. If you really want to seek death, can I stop you? Boy, I just don't know if you really have the guts to actually storm our Seven Killings Tower. You need not provoke me. Whether I go is my business. After all, you won't see that moment. Lu Qing said indifferently. He made no attempt to hide his intent to kill Shadow. Shadow naturally heard Lu Qing's murderous intent, but he no longer cared. The rock that Lu Qing had smashed into his back had already shattered his internal organs. Now, he was mortally wounded, barely hanging on by the strong life energy of a martial artist of the internal organ realm. Unless he found those legendary healing herbs, even if Lu Qing let him go, he wouldn't live for many days. Good, you've got guts. Shadow praised him. We Seven Killings Tower have only assassinated others. It's the first time I see someone daring to provoke us. Mr. Lu Qing, with this courage, your name on the Hidden Dragon list is truly deserved. Lu Qing. He had come to realize that the people in this world really took the Hidden Dragon list very seriously. Being so valued and recognized by martial artists all over the world, it's no wonder that the list had a function to gather fortune. Since he had agreed, Shadow was straightforward and immediately mentioned a series of locations. Lu Qing silently noted them down. Seeing this, Shadow finally believed that this young man was not bluffing. He really intended to take revenge on their Seven Killings Tower. A thrill grew in his heart, eager to see the collision between such a rare creature and the sect. As an assassin who killed without batting an eye, Shadow had no sense of belonging to the Seven Killings Tower. Since childhood, he had been captured by the Seven Killings Tower and subjected to brutal assassin training, enduring immense suffering. For such a cold-blooded organization, he only harbored hatred, not gratitude. However, having grown up in the Seven Killings Tower and knowing its terror, even if he detested and loathed it intensely, he could never muster any will to resist. Now seeing someone willing to seek revenge against that behemoth, although he knew the hope was slim, he still felt a surge of excitement. With that thought, Shadow added, Mr. Lu Qing, the locations of the Seven Killings Tower I just mentioned are actually just minor ones. Even if destroyed, they are of little concern to the Seven Killings Tower. It won't hurt them. But there is one place, if you can destroy it, the Seven Killings Tower will certainly suffer tremendous losses, go mad with rage, and be in anguish. After saying this, Shadow mentioned another location. He also very clearly described the various mechanisms set up at that location. Chapter 245. Refining the Sword Embryo, a Bizarre Misunderstanding. On the hillside within the trees, Lu Qing looked at the corpse of Shadow as it slowly ceased to breathe, falling into silence. The words Shadow spoke before dying echoed in his mind. Mr. Lu Qing, I have told you everything I could, but I advise you not to rush towards revenge. In Seven Killings Tower, there are assassins stronger than me. Several of the most crucial strongholds have elders of the innate realm stationed. Mr. Lu Qing, your martial arts talent is unparalleled, and your future is boundless. In time, you will surely grow into a great martial arts titan. Then it would be easy to take control of the Seven Killings Tower. Sadly, I won't be able to see that day. Lu Qing could feel that Shadow had harbored great resentment towards Seven Killings Tower in his final moments. That's why he revealed all he knew about the Seven Killings Tower. It was unknown what brutal acts the Seven Killings Tower had committed against Shadow, to make him a disciple, completely disloyal to his sect and wish for its total destruction. He recalled the Heavenly Orphan, who had tried to assassinate young Master Wei and had also given him advice before dying. It seemed these assassins from the Seven Killings Tower were quite intriguing. Perhaps by assassinating others frequently, they had long been prepared to face death. When facing their own deaths, they all appeared quite calm. However, although Lu Qing's impression of these assassins had slightly changed, enemies remained enemies. Lu Qing would not spare Shadow's life just for that reason. With his capabilities, it wouldn't have been difficult to heal Shadow's injuries, but showing mercy to an enemy was cruelty to oneself. From the moment Shadow had decided to try and assassinate him, it had been determined that only one of them would survive. Lu Qing was not so merciful as to forgive someone who tried to kill him. Realizing through his superpower that Shadow was indeed dead, Lu Qing briefly searched the body, taking some useful items into the Chenkuan Qi bag. Then he found a spot to bury the corpse, letting it rest in peace and preventing it from being exposed in the wilderness. After finishing all this, he took little Li, who had been hiding in the shadows, and headed home. Previously, he had kept little Li hidden just in case, so that if the enemy was too strong and he couldn't handle it, he would still have a backup plan. But clearly, he had been overly cautious. Arriving home, Lu Qing took out the items he had retrieved from Shadow. After checking them, he found there weren't many useful things. Aside from some gold and silver items and gold and silver notes, there were only a few things of real value. 2 medicine bottles, a set of soft armor, and that short sword smeared with potent poison of the 1,000 refinement level. Inside the 2 medicine bottles, one contained poison, and the other contained elixirs for cultivation in the inner organs realm. However, aside from the elixir for the inner organs realm, the rest were not very useful to Lu Qing. They could be given as gifts later, which was not a bad way to establish goodwill. Lu Qing felt a bit regretful. Neither with the Heavenly Orphan nor with Shadow had he found any secret manuals. Honestly, he was quite interested in the bone and muscle changing technique of the 7 Killings Tower. Though with his current realm, his control over his physical body had reached a very high level. It wasn't difficult to temporarily change his appearance, but achieving the seamless disguise of another person, perfectly coordinated without any flaws, as the Heavenly Orphan had done before, was extremely difficult. Sadly, it was clear that there was some restriction by the 7 Killings Tower, probably not allowing its assassins to carry secret manuals on them in order to prevent leaking of various secret techniques that were crucial to their foundation. Not finding anything particularly useful, Lu Qing casually stored the items and then, carrying a fish bucket, he took Little Li to the Half Mountain's small courtyard. "Brother, Little Li, you're back." Arriving at Half Mountain's small courtyard, Little Yen, who had been reciting from a book in the yard, immediately put the book down and ran over, jumping around. "Yep, how about it? Did you memorize today's text?" Lu Qing asked with a smile. Little Li then jumped into Little Yan's arms, enjoying her caress. "I memorized it. Brother, how was the fishing? Did you catch any strange fish?" Little Yen knew that Lu Qing had gone fishing mainly because Little Li had recently been craving strange fish a lot, throwing tantrums and wanting to eat, so he had gone out fishing early in the morning. "I caught some, and even several." As the siblings talked in the courtyard, Elder Dr. Chun came out from the house, his expression quite serious as he looked at Qing. "Ah, Qing, what was that earlier?" Clearly, the elder doctor had sensed the fluctuations from the earlier battle between Lu Qing and Shadow. After all, Half Mountain's small courtyard wasn't too far from that mountain. Just a petty member of the 7 Killings Tower, already taken care of by the disciple, Lu Qing replied casually. Elder Dr. Chun nodded, not inquiring further about what happened to the assassin from the 7 Killings Tower. He himself disliked taking human lives, but he wouldn't demand his disciple to do the same. Moreover, he particularly disapproved of powers like the 7 Killings Tower, which recklessly assassinated others' lives. Although nothing went wrong this time, you should still be careful on a daily basis, the elder doctor advised. Disciple understands. Lu Qing nodded, then added, "Master, I was quite lucky this morning and caught several red moon carps. Since last time we sold the red moon carp and couldn't taste it ourselves, why don't we try the flavor of one of the world's top 10 delicacies tonight?" "You caught several red moon carps?" Elder Dr. Chun was very surprised. Has the red moon carp become so easy to catch nowadays? Chapter 246. Disciple is also puzzled, maybe because it has been a long time since fishing. All the strange fish in the river have gathered, said Lu Qing. Lu Qing actually had a guess, but before confirming it, he did not want to jump to conclusions. Hearing that they could eat red moon carp, the elder doctor also felt some anticipation. By dinner time, when Lu Qing was cooking, the elder doctor didn't even look at his medical books, leaving his study early. Lu Qing prepared 2 red moon carps, one steamed and one boiled into soup. During dinner, all of them tried a bite and indeed found the fish tender, delicate, and extremely flavorful, with the soup refreshing their hearts and spleens, truly living up to its reputation as one of the top 10 delicacies. That dinner, everyone ate heartily with great enjoyment. That night, after Little Yen and Little Li had gone to sleep, Lu Qing sat on his bed and quietly thought things through. During the day, he had obtained substantial information about 7 Killings Tower from Shadow. This included some key locations of the strongholds. However, he hadn't thought about taking action against 7 Killings Tower anytime soon. Lu Qing was well aware of his own limitations. With his current strength, trying to shake a huge entity like 7 Killings Tower was just a fool's dream. Even if he could destroy 1 or 2 of their bases unexpectedly, It would essentially be a trivial matter for a behemoth like Seven Killings Tower, serving no purpose but to warn them and cause unnecessary alertness. When striking a snake, one must aim for its vital part. Either don't strike at all, or if you do, you must severely cripple or kill them. Therefore, Lu Qing wasn't in a rush. For now, his top priority should be to focus on accruing strength, and to use his time to significantly enhance his capabilities. Only when his power was formidable would he be worthy of facing a mighty force like Seven Killings Tower. Additionally, he had a premonition, from the cloth-clothed youth's words, that the once-in-a-millennium change was nearing. Perhaps it wouldn't be many years before the world itself would transform. After forming a trace of divine soul rune framework, Lu Qing trusted his own intuition. To stand a chance in the anticipated upheaval, strength was indispensable. Temporary gains and conflicts of pride were trivial. Enhancing his own strength was the most crucial task. With that thought, Lu Qing felt a slight stir in his spirit, and a sword appeared in his hand. The very same divine weapon blade embryo forged from outer heaven fallen iron. Placing the sword embryo across his knees, Lu Qing concentrated his spirit, and a trace of divine soul power emerged from the acupuncture point between his eyebrows, entering the embryo and beginning the refining process. Lu Qing employed a secret technique inherited from Li Hua sect. Using mind and spirit to refine the sword embryo, he engraved secret runes within it, leaving his own spiritual imprint. Once the rune engraving was complete and the refinement reached perfection, the sword embryo would transform into a Sword Dao magical artifact, an existence even superior to that of a divine weapon. However, due to the weak nature of his divine soul power, Lu Qing could not refine for long each day. Thus, successfully refining the embryo into a magical artifact was bound to be a long process that required plenty of time. After refining for a quarter of an hour, Lu Qing started to feel mental fatigue. Knowing he was reaching his limit, he ceased the refinement and stored the sword embryo back in the Chenkuan Qi bag. He then took the opportunity to practice the furnace visualization method, pushing his spirit to its utmost limit before falling into a deep sleep according to a special breathing technique. The next morning, waking up refreshed, Lu Qing found the divine soul power in the acupuncture point between his eyebrows had significantly increased. This was a cultivation method he had devised over the last few days, pieced together from the multitude of inheritances in his mind. Each night, he would first employ divine soul power to refine the outer heaven fallen iron sword embryo, then practice the furnace visualization method, pushing his mind to a certain limit before regulating his breath according to the turtle breathing technique and recuperating his divine soul power in his sleep. Such cultivation made him feel rejuvenated upon waking the next day, fully restoring and even enhancing his divine soul power substantially, truly achieving progress in both artifact refining and cultivation. Feeling his enhanced divine soul power, Lu Qing was very satisfied. At this rate, solidifying a complete divine soul talisman before advancing to the innate realm wasn't just wishful thinking anymore. Glancing outside, as the morning sun was already rising, Lu Qing, as usual, practiced some nourishing body boxing in the courtyard before heading off to prepare breakfast. Just as he'd finished making breakfast and was about to call little Yen and little Li, suddenly, he heard some noise outside, followed by a hearty voice. "Brother Lu Qing, I'm here to freeload a meal. Elder Ma, are you done with your clan's matters?" Lu Qing stepped outside, somewhat surprised. Indeed, it was Ma Gu, dressed in a blue robe with a long sword hanging from his waist. He had reverted to his previous attire. "It's done. Thanks to Xian, in fact, there's not much left for me to do in the clan anymore. The clan leader and the elders keep talking about it. They nearly directly told me that as long as I maintain a good relationship with Xian and you guys, I don't need to worry about anything else." Tired of hearing that, I found an excuse to return to the great gathering. Ma Gu appeared somewhat depressed and also a bit embarrassed. It seemed he felt that the clan was being too calculated about his and Lu Qing's relationship. Lu Qing, however, didn't really mind these things. Instead, he asked, "You returned to the great gathering, so what about Xian? Don't you need to supervise his cultivation anymore?" Lu Qing was aware of the true reason Wei Xian had become Ma Gu's disciple. Well, I'll keep you guessing for now. You'll know in a couple of days. Chapter 247. Ma Gu simply smiled slightly, playing coy. Lu Qing. Just as Lu Qing was about to remain speechless, Ma Gu took off the long sword from his waist. Right, brother Lu Qing. I just realized a few days ago. Is this the sword you gave me? Lu Qing looked over. The scabbard seemed familiar. It was indeed the one he had asked Master Lin of Zhu Exine Workshop to make, so he nodded. Yes, it is my gift to you. A token of congratulations for your and young Master Wei's master-disciple ceremony. Is it really from you? Ma Gu's eyes widened. Brother Lu Qing, do you know that this is a 1,000 refinement level treasure sword? I know. Otherwise, why would I give it to you? Lu Qing continued nodding. Nonsense, he had personally crafted the sword. How could he not know its quality? However, Lu Qing was somewhat puzzled. He had given away the sword some time ago, so why was Ma Gu only asking about it now? A 1,000 refinement level treasure sword is extremely valuable, priceless. Brother Lu Qing, such a precious gift. I really can't accept. You should take it back, Ma Gu hastily said. In his heart, Lu Qing was the great benefactor who had saved him several times. He had not yet found the chance to repay such a huge favor and had no right to accept such an expensive gift. You must know, a blade of the 1,000 refinement level, even among the Ma family's treasure trove, not one could be found. So when Ma Gu first discovered this congratulatory gift, not just him, but even the family head was utterly stunned. Lu Qing, didn't Housekeeper Wei tell you that I made this sword myself, and it didn't cost much? You personally crafted this treasure sword? Unexpectedly to Lu Qing, upon hearing this, Ma Gu's eyes widened even more, as big as a cow's, filled with disbelief. Lu Qing fell completely silent. Looking at Ma Gu's expression, which didn't seem like he was faking, he must truly have been unaware. But why would Housekeeper Wei make such a mistake? What Lu Qing didn't know was that, with the thoroughness Housekeeper Wei usually brought to his work, he indeed wouldn't have made such a basic error. However, on the day of the master-disciple ceremony, many things happened, especially with Wei Zian being ambushed and seriously injured. Even though he was saved by Lu Qing with spiritual medicine, his life was narrowly spared. But his primordial qi was greatly damaged, causing the master-disciple ceremony to end abruptly. Afterwards, the Wei family was in a rush to find out who had placed the bounty to assassinate Wei Zian, resulting in the neglect of the gift matter. They just sent over what belonged to Ma Gu to the Ma family, and the rest were not explained clearly. Among them, Lu Qing's gift got mixed in with many others and was very inconspicuous. It was later, when the Ma family was tallying the gifts, that they saw the name on the gift box and realized it was from Lu Qing. Upon opening it and seeing the 1,000 refinement treasure sword inside, they were shocked. By that time, Lu Qing and the elder doctor had already set off on their return journey to Jili village. After hearing Ma Gu's story, Lu Qing finally understood what had happened. He smiled. In that case, Mr. Ma, please keep the sword at ease. This sword was a practice piece I made at Zhu Exine Workshop before. Nothing exceptional, and it didn't cost much. These words completely floored Ma Gu. 1,000 refinement level practice piece. Had Brother Lu Qing's casting technique already reached such a level? Wait, when had Brother Lu Qing learned to craft? He wasn't aware of it? Had it been during the days when he went home? But that was only a few days. For a moment, Ma Gu's thoughts were in turmoil, his brain nearly crashing. However, knowing it was indeed crafted by Lu Qing himself, he eventually accepted the 1,000 refinement treasure sword. Mr. Ma, have you eaten yet? I just made breakfast. Would you like to join me? Seeing Ma Gu's mood had recovered, Lu Qing asked. Ma Gu's eyes immediately lit up. Of course I want to eat. I intentionally skipped breakfast and timed my arrival, just because I haven't tasted your cooking in so long and missed it. Hearing such a bold and justified freeloading excuse, Lu Qing could only laugh helplessly. All right, you go inside and wait a bit. I'll go call little Yen and the others. Chapter 248. 2 years later. The Divine Soul Talisman is completed. Deep in the mountains, in the strange valley where Li Weitian was buried, Lu Qing and little Li appeared. "Half a year since I last came here. Nothing seems to have changed." Lu Qing gazed at the valley's birdsong and flowers, feeling somewhat emotional. Outside the valley, the autumn wind was bleak with leaves falling. Yet inside the valley it was still like spring in full bloom. An oddity indeed. "Ow!" Little Li on his shoulder called out, seemingly urging Lu Qing. I know, you and little Yen have plans to play chess early when we get back. This closure shouldn't take too long." Lu Qing soothed, rubbing the fluffy head of the little creature. He somewhat regretted why he had had the whim to create a set of beast fighting chess some time ago. It had once again ensnared the two little ones, now immersing themselves deeply every day, wishing all their time could be spent on playing chess. Visiting Li Weiyan's grave first to pay respects, then Lu Qing, accompanied by little Li, passed through the waterfall and entered the cave. Upon reaching the jade cave chamber, everything remained just as it had when Lu Qing first discovered it, without any change. It seemed as though it would remain the same eternally, no matter how much the outside world altered. Of course, Lu Qing knew it was merely an illusion. From the time he found this cave, it had only been just over 2 years. It was ridiculous to speak of eternity. "Little Li, guard the entrance for me while I go inside to close off." Lu Qing took out a variety of items from his Chenquanqi bag. Soft cotton bedding, fresh water, dried fish, among others, all prepared for little Li. He even placed a couple of storybooks there, so the little guy could browse through them if he got bored. After all, in these 2 years, little Li had practically learned to recognize all the characters, able to understand somewhat simple writings. This closure was extremely important for him, and he didn't know how long it would take. Nevertheless, he prepared comprehensively for his sustenance. Previously, when moving through the forests, he could only carry a bamboo basket, limiting what he could bring. Now, having something like the Chenquanqi bag as a magical storage space allowed him to make thorough arrangements. "Ow!" Little Li, used to seeing Lu Qing draw numerous items from that small bag, was no longer surprised. It walked into the little cotton nest, cozily lying down, indicating it understood. "You're getting lazier by the day." Lu Qing shook his head, half in amusement. However, he trusted little Li's abilities greatly. Its unique sensing capability could easily detect innate realm experts nearby if they were not deliberately concealing their presence. Plus, with its ghostly invisibility talent and unbreakable claws and teeth, even a martial arts grandmaster caught off guard would hardly be a match for it. There was no better protector than it. Letting the little creature lazily sprawl there, Lu Qing pushed open the hidden door, entered the secret chamber, and sat cross-legged on the jade bed. After regulating his breath to calm his mind thoroughly, and adjusting his essence, spirit, and vitality to their optimal states, he then immersed his mind into the acupoint between his eyebrows. Compared to 2 years ago, Lu Qing's acupoint between the eyebrows had undergone significant changes. Not only had the space expanded, but his divine soul power had also made substantial progress. If 2 years ago, his divine soul power could only form a shallow mist in the third eye acupoint, now it had turned into a dense fog. It was dozens of times richer than before. More importantly, in the center of the acupoint, an ancient-looking, complex divine soul talisman hovered in midair, stabilizing the entire acupoint space, making it even more secure. This divine soul talisman was almost completely intact except for a tiny corner missing at the bottom right side, nearly flawless. The purpose of Lu Qing's seclusion this time was to fill in this last missing corner and fully refine the divine soul talisman. This step was extremely important, concerning his future path, and he could not afford to be careless. That's why he brought little Li with him to seclude themselves in the undisturbed jade cave. It's finally the moment. Enhancing the divine soul power is truly much more difficult than cultivating the physical body. My physical qualities had reached the level of a martial arts grandmaster at the perfection of the internal organ realm just a year ago. Yet, the divine soul power, even with the help of a mortal Tao secret skill, took another year to barely start refining the divine soul talisman. His heart and spirit watched the talisman within the acupoint, and Lu Qing felt a sense of marvel. Over these 2 years, he had practiced diligently every day, continuously tempering his divine soul power. He had even cultivated the furnace visualization method to the 2nd level, the realm of melting furnace. Only then had he managed to enhance his divine soul power enough to thoroughly refine the divine soul talisman. Conversely, his martial arts cultivation had progressed rapidly without much concentration, merely practicing nourishing body boxing a few times each day. He had reached the perfection of the internal organ realm and entered the status of a martial arts grandmaster much earlier. There was no helping it, Lu Qing's accumulation in martial arts was simply too profound. 2 years ago, he had already understood various martial arts cultivation techniques to the grandmaster level, even touching the boundary of will. And over these 2 years, his insight into martial arts had greatly improved. Also, having once consumed earth vein spirit liquid and other rare treasure liquids, his talent was astonishing. With such accumulation, it was difficult for his martial arts cultivation not to advance quickly. 2 years of hard cultivation, I have made significant progress in all aspects of my cultivation. Now, it's finally time to deal with this divine soul talisman. Looking at the nearly complete divine soul talisman in his 3rd eye acupoint, Lu Qing did not hesitate anymore and began refining the final rune according to the heritage records of the divine talisman sect. Refining the God Soul rune had already become second nature to Lu Qing. After all, over these 2 years, he had refined countless such God Soul runes. Thus, it didn't take long for him to refine the last missing rune for the talisman. He carefully moved the rune towards the divine soul talisman. As the rune approached the talisman, a strange force emerged, and the rune autonomously flew towards the talisman, fitting perfectly into the missing corner, seamlessly completing it. With the completion of the rune, a miraculous scene unfolded. The entire talisman began to emanate a faint aura, and the many runes Lu Qing had painstakingly refined over the 2 years gathered, dispersed, combined, and rotated. Finally, when all changes ceased, a completely intact divine soul talisman appeared again. At the same time, Lu Qing felt an invisible fluctuation emanating from the talisman. Subsequently, his 3rd eye acupoint began to transform. This transformation was sudden and intense, catching Lu Qing somewhat off guard. His heart and spirit were swept up by the fluctuation, plunging him into a bizarre state akin to sudden enlightenment. Chapter 249, Acupoint Transformation, Divine Soul Great Increase. This sudden enlightenment of the divine soul indeed differs quite significantly from the learning state of perception and understanding of superpower. Lu Qing mused as he roused from his state of sudden enlightenment, his eyes brimming with astonishment. At that moment, he felt incredibly good. Everything around him was under control. Not only had his sensitivity greatly increased, but his control over his physical body had also risen to another level. His mind stirred, and his heart and spirit once again emerged into the Qi acupoint between his eyebrows. He saw that the Qi acupoint had undergone earth-shaking changes. Not only had the space in the acupoint expanded several times, allowing it to hold more divine soul power, but the mist that represented the divine soul power had also become much denser. With these improvements combined, his divine soul power had increased more than tenfold compared to before. In the center of the Qi acupoint, a hazy divine soul talisman emanated an air of simplicity, weightiness, and authority. It stood suspended in midair, inhaling and exhaling the surrounding divine soul mist. With every breath it took, Lu Qing could feel the divine soul mist seemingly becoming more refined, strengthening ever so slightly. Based on my previous estimates, before the formation of the divine soul talisman, my divine soul power was comparable to that of a martial arts expert in the initial innate realm, not far off from that old ancestor of the Wei family. Now that the divine soul talisman is complete, my divine soul power has surged. Speaking solely of the strength of the divine soul power, I can now crush the majority of ordinary experts in the initial innate realm. The divine soul of man has always been mysterious and elusive, difficult to comprehend. Even innate realm martial artists have a shallow understanding of it, unable to fathom, let alone grasp its essence. Without a special cultivation technique, it is very hard for innate realm martial artists to specifically enhance their divine soul power through cultivation. Usually only through breakthroughs in their cultivation realm, baptisms of the heaven and earth laws, and transformations of the body, does the divine soul power increase. But the cultivation techniques for the divine soul are extraordinarily precious. Aside from a handful of long-standing and powerful top-tier forces, it's virtually impossible for ordinary innate realm martial artists to come across such techniques. Therefore, unless they have additional opportunities, the divine soul power among ordinary martial arts experts in the initial innate realm usually does not very much. With the completion of Lu Qing's divine soul talisman and the transformation of the Qi acupoint, his divine soul power had increased significantly, far surpassing that of ordinary experts in the initial innate realm. He was likely not inferior even to those who had achieved innate minor achievement. Most importantly, under the constant refining influence of the divine soul talisman, his divine soul power was strengthening at all times. Although each cycle of inhalation and exhalation only marginally increased his power, the cumulative effect over time was considerable. Furthermore, with the furnace visualization, my divine soul power has substantial room for growth in the coming days. Lu Qing felt extremely joyful in his heart. Bearing several top-tier inheritances and the direct teachings of his master, he understood that on the path of cultivation, after stepping into the innate realm, the power of the divine soul is extremely important. Stronger divine soul power leads to higher aptitude for enlightenment, making the comprehension of the ways of the innate much easier and progress faster. The more solid the foundation, the greater the benefits when a breakthrough eventually occurs. Now, before even stepping into the innate realm, he already possessed divine soul power far surpassing that of an ordinary individual in the initial innate realm. What level would his divine soul power transform to after truly stepping into the innate, under the baptism of the heaven and earth laws? Lu Qing looked forward to it with great anticipation. And also, Lu Qing extended his right hand, his heart and spirit stirring slightly, as a small rune gradually formed at his fingertips, emanating a mysterious aura. With the completion of the divine soul talisman, some of the techniques from the rune path have finally become usable to me. That's why they say the path of the rune is difficult to cultivate. Even Lu Qing, endowed with superpower and many fortuitous encounters, took over 2 years to solidify the divine soul talisman. For an ordinary practitioner of the rune path, it is impossible to know how much time it would take to reach this stage. And before completely solidifying the divine soul talisman, practitioners of the rune path have very few means of self-protection. Unless they cultivate in other systems as well, pure practitioners of the rune path, before the creation of the divine soul talisman, might not even be able to defeat a Qi blood realm martial artist in combat. Human energy is indeed limited. The cultivation of the rune path was already difficult enough. If one were to cultivate other methods simultaneously, their progress would be even slower. Those with lesser talent might not even be able to enter the threshold. I wonder if the disappearance of the divine talisman sect has anything to do with this. A thought suddenly flashed through Lu Qing's mind. But regardless, I have finally condensed the divine soul talisman. And since I've been hesitating recently about whether to break through to the innate realm, there's no rush now. I'll first focus on cultivating techniques of the rune path. Lu Qing had already reached the perfection of the Grandmaster realm within the internal organ realm a year ago. Moreover, his divine soul power had been tempered early on and was extremely strong. If he wanted to, he could have already used the divine soul power to leverage the Qi acupoints, open the heaven and earth bridge, and draw in the essence to achieve the innate realm. But under some inexplicable premonition, Lu Qing had not done so. Now that the changes in heaven and earth are imminent and the recovery of spiritual energy is about to be in full swing, during this once-in-a-10,000 years cataclysm, if he rashly achieved innate, Lu Qing always felt that he would miss out on a tremendous opportunity. At that time, his divine soul talisman was mostly condensed, and its framework was already formed, so he trusted his intuition a lot and kept suppressing his cultivation, not breaking through. Now that the divine soul talisman had taken shape and the power of his divine soul had greatly increased, this vague sense grew stronger, and Lu Qing was even less eager to break through. It's just as well that my master is planning to go to Central State soon to take the opportunity of entering the Holy Mountain Holy Pool. That Central State, among the 9 states, is the most prosperous and fertile land. Truly a place where outstanding people and places of spiritual significance exist. Perhaps there, I can uncover some useful information. After making his decision, Lu Qing finally collected his breath, got up from the bed, and stepped out of the dark room. He saw Little Li lying in his nest, sound asleep. Beside him was a half-open storybook and a few scattered fish snacks. Even Lu Qing's emergence did not seem to stir Little Li from his slumber. "You're really living the good life," Lu Qing said with an involuntary laugh. But he also knew that Little Li was this comfortable because he was too familiar with Lu Qing's presence and trusted him completely. If it were a stranger, as soon as they entered Little Li's sensing range, he would probably have woken up. Lu Qing reached forward and tugged on the little guy's ear. "Little Li, wake up." Little Li woke up groggily, and when he saw Lu Qing, his eyes widened. "Ow! Yes, my retreat has ended. How many days have I been inside?" Little Li stretched out 3 little claws. 3 days. Lu Qing was somewhat surprised. It seemed that the transformation of the acupoint at the brow took longer than he had thought. He had assumed that at most only a day had passed. "Ow!" Little Li called out again. "Good. After packing up, we can return." Hearing this answer, Little Li sprang up from his nest in a buzz, then picked up the storybook and his nest, stuffed them into Lu Qing's arms, jumped onto his shoulder, and indicated that he was ready to leave. "You little guy, you just haven't played chess with little Yen for a few days? Is there a need to be this anxious?" Seeing Little Li's eager appearance, Lu Qing shook his head helplessly. He casually put everything into the Qianquan Qi bag. Then, carrying Little Li, he walked towards the entrance of the cave. Chapter 250, Thousand-Year-Old Ginseng, Changes in 2 years. My divine soul sensing ability has greatly increased. In the Jade Cave, with arrays concealing everything, Lu Qing hadn't felt it much. After stepping out, he clearly sensed that, with the enhancement of the Divine Soul Talisman, his Divine Soul sensing ability had gotten a tremendous boost. It expanded from the original range of 100 meters to a full 2 li, a 10-fold increase, and the precision of the sensing had improved significantly. Any living creature within range could hardly escape his detection. After condensing the Divine Soul Talisman, my Divine Soul sensing now has a bit of the same flavor as Little Li's extraordinary sensing ability. Lu Qing understood in his heart. Little Li's peculiar sensing ability was incredibly miraculous. So far, he had not found anything that could escape its detection. Even a master like his, who had realized a sliver of the domain realm, would still be discovered by Little Li if he got too close while concealing his aura. The only time there had been a mistake was when that cloth-clothed youth from the Tianji building had come knocking. But that was because the other party had an exotic treasure on him that completely hid his aura, allowing him to slip past Little Li's detection. The fluctuations of the heaven and earth primordial qi are also getting more intense. With his divine soul power greatly enhanced, Lu Qing's sensing of heaven and earth primordial qi was also much clearer. In fact, over these 2 years, he had already noticed that the fluctuation of primordial qi between heaven and earth had become more lively. It seemed as if something extremely important was about to be born from a deeper layer of space. Yet, because the timing was not right, it had not been able to emerge successfully. But Lu Qing had a premonition that once that thing was truly born, the whole world would welcome a major change. Is it spiritual energy? Lu Qing carefully sensed the changes in the surrounding primordial qi and pondered silently. What's this? Suddenly, his expression changed as he seemed to discover something, and in the next moment, his figure had vanished from the spot. Several leaps later, he arrived at a small slope above a valley. As his figure landed, a certain plant on the ground seemed to sense something, its branches and leaves contracting as it attempted to burrow underground. However, it was too late. Before it could fully escape, it was already grasped by Lu Qing, who applied a clever force with his hand and pulled it out from the ground. It really is a ginseng. Looking at the item in his hand, a surprised delight appeared on Lu Qing's face. What he was holding was a large, fully formed ginseng with complete roots and limbs, already taking on the shape of a human. He immediately activated his superpower and looked into it. He saw an extremely dense red light, mixed with a sliver of golden light, emanating from the ginseng. Ginseng, a precious medicinal herb, non-toxic, and edible. This ginseng has grown for a considerable number of years, having surpassed 1800 years, and has developed a sliver of innate spiritual wisdom. It is said that ginsengs that develop spiritual wisdom awaken a life-bound divine ability and can quickly burrow underground to escape danger and preserve themselves. 1,000-year-old ginseng. As the information became clear, Lu Qing was even more overjoyed. This was a ginseng that had developed a hint of spiritual wisdom, and at over 1800 years old. It's known that once ginseng surpasses 1,000 years and develops spiritual wisdom, its medicinal effect undergoes a qualitative change, truly advancing to the level of spiritual medicine. It can be called a treasure that is truly found by chance and not by seeking. Indeed, this forest, nourished by the geoenergy gathered by the Jade Cave for so many years, has given birth to 1,000-year-old ginsengs. But these 1,000-year ginsengs, having developed a sliver of spiritual wisdom and possessing a trace of divine skills, could autonomously escape, which is why they have not been discovered by others. Buzz! An invisible fluctuation emitted from the ginseng in his hand, its roots trembling as if extremely frightened. Lu Qing remained unmoved. The 1,000-year-old ginseng may have developed a hint of spiritual wisdom, but it was still very naive, acting entirely on instinct. Its true spiritual wisdom was perhaps even less than that of ordinary chickens and ducks. So he simply ignored the ginseng's tremors, took out the red rope and other items from his Chenkuan Qi bag, and wrapped them around the ginseng. Immediately, the ginseng no longer struggled. However, because this ginseng had developed a hint of spiritual wisdom and stepped into the level of living creatures, Lu Qing couldn't store it in the Chenkuan Qi bag. He could only wrap it in moist moss for the time being and place it in a medicine box to carry in his bosom. After securing the medicine box, Lu Qing searched the vicinity but didn't find any other 1,000-year-old ginsengs. It was unknown whether this was the only 1,000-year ginseng in this place, or if the others had sensed danger and burrowed deep underground. His divine soul-sensing range could reach 2 li on the surface, but underground, it was much weaker. He could only sense movements down to 20 or 30 meters, and even then it was quite vague. Any deeper and it was all a blur. If the remaining 1,000-year ginsengs were all hiding underground, it would be almost impossible for him to detect them. The earth was thick and protected by geoenergy. It was still very difficult for divine soul power to penetrate and break through. Although he didn't find any more 1,000-year ginsengs, Lu Qing did find several century-old ginsengs. He chose to dig up the longest-lived one among them, which was at least 400 years old, and left the others untouched. At his current level of strength, century-old ginsengs were no longer of much use to him. The reason he dug up one was to take it back to his master, to replenish the medicine store for unexpected needs. After finishing all this, Lu Qing, accompanied by Little Li, set off towards the mountainside. Chapter 251. With Lu Qing's current strength, going in and out of the forest had become extremely easy. It didn't take much time before Jili village was in sight. Just as he entered the village, he heard the sounds of reading not far away, and Lu Qing couldn't help but smile. Over the past 2 years, Jili village had changed significantly. Not only had the roads been smoothed out, but the villagers' houses had also been refurbished, and a schoolhouse had even been added. And the cause of this change was the Wei family. 2 years ago, Ma Gu left the county to avoid his family's nagging and returned to the big market for a leisurely life. At the time, Lu Qing had curiously asked what would happen to Wei Zian, only to find the next day that Wei Zian had also come to Jili village, accompanied by Grand Steward Wei and many Wei family servants. In the days that followed, the Wei family bought a piece of land next to Jili village at a high price and built a separate residence there for Wei Zian. Sometimes Mrs. Wei and Wei Xinghe, the couple, would come and stay for a while. Even the Wei family's old patriarch made occasional appearances, coming over to have tea with the master. Since there were quite a few people in the Wei family's separate residence, the daily consumption of vegetables, meat, and eggs was not insignificant. These products were all directly purchased from the villagers of Jili village, giving the villagers an additional source of income. Gradually, the Wei family helped to repair the roads in the village and even built a school under the pretext that the young master needed to study, inviting 2 teachers to give lessons. They explicitly stated that if the villagers had school-age children, they could also send them to the school free of tuition and only needed to bring their own meals. Upon hearing this, the villagers were initially skeptical. After receiving repeated assurances from the Wei family and consulting Lu Qing, they were overjoyed. They sent their children to the school one after another. Even families that found it difficult did the same. They preferred to endure hardships themselves rather than let their children fall behind. Neither Lu Qing nor the elder doctor opposed the Wei family's actions, but instead tacitly approved. After all, what the Wei family did was harmless and beneficial to Jili village. They naturally also hoped that the village would continue to improve. Lu Qing even quietly subsidized some of the more struggling families in the village. Thus, 2 years later, Jili village had undergone the changes seen today. Accompanied by little Li, Lu Qing headed to the half-mountain small courtyard. As soon as they entered the courtyard, they saw the Wei family's old patriarch sitting leisurely under the plum tree having tea with the master. And little Yen was quietly writing nearby. "Brother, little Li, you're back." Facing the entrance of the courtyard, little Yen spotted Lu Qing's return immediately, set down her brush with joy, and hurried over to meet him. Surprisingly, both the elder doctor and Wei Shanhai turned their heads in astonishment, because they hadn't noticed Lu Qing's return just now. "Yes, just got back." Lu Qing rubbed his sister's head, noting that in the 2 years, the little one had grown a bit, but she was still a bit of a kid. Little Li jumped onto little Yan's shoulder, pulled at her hair with its paws, and then pointed towards the house. "All right, I'll go get the chest now." Having spent so much time together, little Yen immediately understood its intention and excitedly ran into the house. Lu Qing shook his head, letting the 2 youngsters go off to play. Then he approached the plum tree and first performed a bow. "Greetings to Senior Wei." Then he said to his master, "Master, I have returned." By this time, the elder doctor's expression had returned to calm. "Is your retreat over?" "Just ended this morning. Little Li missed little Yen, so we hurried back. I think it's addicted to chess and wanted to hurry back to play with little Yen," the elder doctor said with a chuckle. He also knew that recently Lu Qing had invented a novel beast-fighting chess, which both youngsters were quite addicted to. "It seems young Master Lu has gained quite a lot from this retreat," Wei Shanhai exclaimed from beside. He was still very astonished. Just now when Lu Qing had returned, he, being in the innate realm, had failed to notice. Even now, with Lu Qing standing in front of him, he still could not discern the truth from the illusion. If he closed his eyes within the divine soul sensing, there would be only a void with no one existing at all. Such a strange scene. How could Wei Shanhai not be astonished? Could it be that Lu Qing had broken through to the innate realm? Yet, when he carefully sensed it, he did not perceive the unique aura of the innate realm on Lu Qing. It was just a minor breakthrough, nothing worthy of Senior Wei's undue praise. Facing Wei Shanhai's admiration, Lu Qing remained humble. Upon hearing this, Wei Shanhai, knowing that Lu Qing did not wish to reveal what he had broken through, awkwardly picked up his teacup and took a sip. "Little Li, hurry up." Fortunately, at that moment, little Yen rushed out with a chessboard in her arms, resolving the awkwardness. "Roar." Little Li swiftly jumped onto the stone table, waiting. Little Yen tidied up her calligraphy tools and began to set up the chessboard. Soon, the 2 little ones were engrossed in their game. This sight stunned Wei Shanhai. He knew little Li's spiritual nature was strong, comparable to a child's. But watching it seriously play chess still seemed somewhat unbelievable. Curious, he stepped forward, eager to observe how the 2 little ones played their game. After a few glimpses, he was surprised again. "What kind of chess is this? I seem to have never seen it before. Grandpa Wei, my brother said this is called beast fighting chess, and it's fun. Little Yen obediently replied. Beast fighting chess? Wei Shanhai looked at Lu Qing. Lu Qing smiled and said, Senior must be laughing now. This chess was randomly thought up by me during my idle time. It's not elegant enough for prestigious occasions. Oh? The young master thought of this himself. How is it played? Unexpectedly, Wei Shanhai became even more interested upon hearing. Grandpa Wei, I'll teach you. Beast fighting chess is really simple. First, these fierce animals are ranked, with the ancient elephant being the largest and most powerful, and the little mouse the smallest, but the little mouse can climb into the ancient elephant's nose and defeat it. Little Yen instantly began to explain the rules of beast fighting chess to Wei Shanhai. The version of beast fighting chess that Lu Qing had created differed slightly from the one in his previous life, having modified some animals to those more familiar in this world. However, the core rules remained the same: the big ones eat the little ones, yet the smallest could overcome the biggest. After listening, Wei Shanhai was even more astonished. Though simple, the rules of beast fighting chess were logically sound without any flaws, offering playability, particularly suitable for children's enlightenment. Moreover, within these rules, there subtly emerged a sense of mutual generation and restraint. Lu Qing's intelligence in devising such a chess game was clearly remarkable. He truly was a peerless genius blessed with great destiny. If Lu Qing knew what Wei Shanhai was thinking at that moment, he would feel utterly speechless. It was just a simple game of beast fighting chess, and yet so much was being read into it. Seeing Wei Shanhai engrossed in watching little Yen and the others play, Lu Qing suddenly remembered the medicine box in his arms. He took it out. Master, when the disciple ventured into the mountains this time, I found a 1,000-year-old ginseng that seemed to have developed a spiritual nature. I am unsure how to handle it properly, so I ask for Master's decision. A 1,000-year-old ginseng that has developed a spiritual nature? This surprised not only the elder doctor but also made Wei Shanhai turn his head in shock. Indeed, this ginseng can escape on its own. If not for the disciple's quick reaction, it almost escaped. Lu Qing opened the medicine box, removed the damp moss, and revealed the ginseng tied up with a red thread. Clear features, complete limbs. Truly a 1,000-year-old ginseng. The elder doctor, well versed in many medical classics, although he had not seen it before, could still recognize at a glance that the ginseng in the box was at least 1,000 years old. Master! Look! This ginseng contains spiritual nature and has some traits of living creatures. Lu Qing untied the red thread and gently held the main trunk of the ginseng. Once the binding was removed, the roots of the ginseng became active again, trembling. It truly has awakened spiritual wisdom. The elder doctor was overjoyed. Ah Qing, this ginseng needs to be well nurtured. It will be of great use in the future. Chapter 252. Cultivating the Medicine Field. Under the explanation of the elder doctor, Lu Qing finally understood. His master had spent years studying the medical saint's green bag medical scripture, and had become thoroughly familiar with many medical scriptures treasured by the Wei family. He learned some peculiar methods of cultivating medicine fields. After all, once many great doctors become famous, they rarely go into the deep mountains to personally gather herbs. Such efficiency is not only low but often depends on luck. Thus, many medical experts began to ponder the cultivation of medicine fields. In this way, many special methods for cultivating medicine fields came into existence. Among them was one method that happened to require 1,000-year-old ginseng. A 1,000-year-old ginseng with spiritual wisdom can gather and organize the earth's qi instinctively, nurturing its own survival grounds, making it one of the best aids to regulate the earth's qi and nourish the medicine fields. The ginseng you brought back, judging from its age, is much older than 1,000 years and has even stronger spiritual nature. It's perfect for cultivating a medicine field. Lu Qing inwardly praised his master's keen insight. The age of this ginseng was indeed well beyond 1,000 years, having reached a full 1,800 years. But master, this 1,000-year-old ginseng has spiritual wisdom and can escape on its own. What if it runs away once we put it in the medicine field? Lu Qing hadn't forgotten the scene when the ginseng attempted to flee. If it weren't for his quick reaction, it would have truly burrowed underground. The elder doctor smiled slightly. Your teacher naturally has a way to handle that, and ginseng remembers kindness. Once the medicine field is truly cultivated and rich in earth qi and medicine qi, it will greatly benefit its growth. Then, not only will it not run away, but it will also actively protect this place. If that's the case, I'll leave this ginseng in master's care. Upon hearing this, Lu Qing handed over the ginseng to his master, and also pulled out another medicine box from his bosom. Oh, and there's also this. I managed to dig up another ginseng that's hundreds of years old and will give it to you as well, master. The elder doctor opened it and was even more delighted. Very good. With this ginseng that's hundreds of years old, cultivating the medicine field will be even easier. As Lu Qing kept pulling out ginseng, Wei Shanhai beside him was already dumbfounded. The first ginseng, a 1,000-year-old ginseng with spiritual wisdom, was a legendary spiritual medicine. Even someone like him, who had lived over 100 years, was seeing it for the first time. Even the several hundred-year-old ginseng that followed was also exceptionally precious, and their Wei mansion did not have many of those. How fortunate was Lu Qing to enter the mountains and emerge with such precious spiritual medicines one after another on a single trip. At this moment, Wei Shanhai became even more convinced that Lu Qing was someone with great fortune as told in the legends. Otherwise, how could a casual trip to the mountains yield such a rare and extraordinary spiritual medicine? Having handed over the ginseng to his master, Lu Qing also felt a weight lift from his shoulders. However, his master's words also reminded him. In fact, among the inheritances he obtained, such as the one from Lihua sect, there were methods to cultivate medicine fields and even spiritual fields. Most of these methods required the use of immortal Tao techniques, which he was unable to perform at his current level. But there were also some relatively simple methods that could be used. With the spiritual energy recovery imminent, he should be preparing early. Lu Qing, with his inheritance, was very aware that the path of immortal cultivation consumed a great deal of resources. By planning early, he could secure a lead in the upcoming changes of heaven and earth. However, such preparations might require the assistance of the Wei family. With this thought, Lu Qing said to Elder Wei, Senior Wei, there is something for which I would like to ask your help. Oh? What may it be? I need some materials, and I wonder if the senior could have your family help gather them. That's simple. The young master just needs to give me the list of materials. Wei Shanhai agreed without any hesitation. At the same time, he felt a secret joy. Ever since he recognized Lu Qing as an unparalleled genius with great destiny, he valued him even more. He had also heard about the impending catastrophic changes in heaven and earth. Even massive forces like Tianji Building and Seven Killings Tower were taking this very seriously. Their Wei family, being a minor family, had to be even more cautious. Having Lu Qing, a pillar of the future, it was only natural that he would want to cling to him tightly. Therefore, he couldn't wish more for Lu Qing's requests. Lu Qing went inside and wrote a very detailed list, which he later handed to Wei Shanhai. Wei Shanhai didn't even look at it but solemnly took it, planning to have his people in the Wei mansion help gather the items as soon as he returned. Cultivating a medicine field was a rather complex matter, requiring many preparations. For this purpose, the elder doctor also asked the Wei family to help find some materials. With the efforts of the Wei family, in a few days, the materials needed by the elder doctor were all gathered. On the other hand, the materials required by Lu Qing were more rare and would take some more time. Once he obtained the materials, the elder doctor immediately started to busy himself. Master, is this the medicine field you want to cultivate? Several days later, in the backyard of Half Mountain Small Courtyard, Lu Qing looked at the small garden arranged by his master and was a bit astonished. There was no helping it because the medicine field was too small, being only about 10 feet in length and width, and quite different from what he had imagined. This is just a preliminary test. Don't be fooled by its small size. It also cost quite a bit. The elder doctor held out a flower pot. which contained the 1,000-year-old ginseng that Lu Qing had brought back. "Master, does this ginseng seem to be showing you affection?" He was a bit surprised to see the 1,000-year-old ginseng gently stroking his master's hand with its leaves, like a puppy. "These past few days, I've been administering a few drops of earth vein spirit liquid mixed with medicine liquid to it every day, so it has become much more affectionate." Lu Qing suddenly understood. No wonder earth vein spirit liquid was such a treasure liquid, completely condensed from the essence of the earth. Even if diluted a lot, it still held a fatal attraction for plant spirits like the 1,000-year-old ginseng. Wasn't the reason for the excellent growth of the herbs in the woods outside the Jade Cave due to the nourishment from the earth's energy gathered by the underground array? "Little guy, from now on, you can settle down here comfortably." The elder doctor gently poured the 1,000-year-old ginseng from the flower pot into the medicine field, along with the soil. The elder doctor had already prepared the medicine field with materials and transplanted many herbs into it, making it rich in medicinal energy. As soon as the 1,000-year-old ginseng touched the earth, it swiftly burrowed down, startling Lu Qing. But luckily, the ginseng soon came back up, found the spot in the medicine field where the earth's energy was richest, took root there, and after shaking its branches and leaves for a while, it gradually calmed down. Lu Qing then breathed a sigh of relief. Just a moment ago, he thought this little thing was about to run away. "Don't worry," the elder doctor said with a smile. "During these days, I've communicated with this little guy through heart and spirit, and we've already reached an agreement. It will eagerly tend to our medicine field, and every 3 days, I will give it a drop of medicine liquid prepared with earth vein spirit liquid. As long as Master has it in control." Lu Qing felt relieved and smiled in return. As precious as earth vein spirit liquid was, as long as his master was happy, he would let it be. Moreover, Lu Qing could also sense that, as the 1,000-year-old ginseng took root, the earth's energy in the small mountain beneath them suddenly became much more organized, and the nearby earth's energy was also gathering towards this spot. Over time, if this continued for long enough, Half-Mountain Small Courtyard might even slowly become a blessed land. Thinking of it like that, investing a bit of medicine liquid made from earth vein spirit liquid seemed quite worth it. Chapter 253, Earth Element Talisman 1,000-Mile Raid. That night, Lu Qing was sitting cross-legged on the bed. Concentrating deeply, his expression was serene. His hands were forming a strange magic seal. From the brow chakra, waves of divine soul fluctuation emerged, connecting with the earth element primordial chi between heaven and earth. As the earth element primordial chi surged, a yellow earth-colored stream of talisman gradually materialized in front of Lu Qing's body and slowly took shape. As the last trace of soul fluctuation surged out, the yellow earth-colored talisman was fully formed, emanating a faint halo and hovering in mid-air, looking quite mysterious. This earth element talisman has finally been successfully condensed. Lu Qing exhaled and his face broke into a smile. In the Path of Runes, after condensing a divine soul talisman, one possesses some methods to confront enemies, gradually revealing the mystique of this cultivation system. Among them, the most commonly used means are none other than talismans and arrays. A so-called talisman means that the cultivator, under the enhancement of a divine soul talisman and with the power of the divine soul, communicates with the primordial chi between heaven and earth, delineating runes and condensing them into a magic talisman. These magic talismans possess various bizarre powers and are quite mystical. As for arrays, they are much more complex. To successfully deploy one, a long time of preparation is essential, sketching out runes based on the movement of heaven and earth and the environment around to set up the array. With Lu Qing's current level of cultivation and the short time he had pondered the rune path, he had not yet reached the realm of laying arrays. These days, what he had contemplated most was the means of talismans. The recently condensed Earth Element Talisman was a magic talisman from the 5 Elements Talisman taught in his Divine Talisman Sex Heritage. Its main ability was to make one's body as light as a swallow, greatly reducing the body's burden, making walking on the ground much more relaxed. Now that the Earth Element Talisman has been condensed, it's time to settle the score with the 7 Killings Tower. A hint of icy chill was revealed in Lu Qing's eyes. In the past 2 years, since that shadow incident, he had encountered 3 assassinations by the Seven Killings Tower. The last time was 3 months ago. Even though all 3 attempts were discovered in advance by Little Li and nipped in the bud by him, the recklessness of the Seven Killings Tower had completely enraged Lu Qing. He had previously refrained from creating complications due to the imminent condensation of the Divine Soul Talisman. But now, with all his methods well practiced, it was time to collect some interest from that Seven Killings Tower. Today was perfect as Mrs. Wei came to stay at the other residence, and Little Yen and Little Li went there to play and were left to stay overnight. With no one at home, Lu Qing felt secure about leaving. With a slight change in the hand seal, the Earth Element Talisman transformed into a streak of light and drilled into the chakra on Lu Qing's forehead. It then turned into a miniature sphere of light, radiating a faint glow, orbiting the Divine Soul Talisman like a satellite. Beside it, there were several other similar spheres of light, only differing in color. After storing the Earth Element Talisman, Lu Qing gently stepped out of the room door, silently without alerting anyone, and headed outside the village. Once outside the village, sensing no one around, Lu Qing's mind and spirit subtly moved, and the sphere of light representing the Earth Element Talisman in the space of his brow chakra slightly brightened. The next moment, a mysterious force supported Lu Qing's body, making him feel incredibly light, almost having the illusion of hovering in mid-air. Truly, as stated in the heritage, my body has become very light. After getting accustomed to his body, a satisfied expression appeared on Lu Qing's face. Then, pushing off the ground, he shot forward like an arrow leaving the string, rapidly advancing forward. He dashed out dozens of meters before his momentum slightly decreased. But, as Lu Qing pushed off once again, his speed soared once more. This Earth Element Talisman is indeed mystical. With its aid, even if I sprinted 1,000 miles, my physical exhaustion won't be much. Lu Qing was extremely surprised. The power of the magic talisman was even more mysterious than he had imagined. With this, he felt even more confident about his mission. Seven Killings Tower, are you ready to face my revenge? Lu Qing gazed into the distance, his eyes fierce. With the help of the Earth Element Talisman, Lu Qing spent most of the night traveling and arrived in front of a tall mountain. This place was 700 li away from Jili village. It was not even in Song County anymore, but in another county quite close to the state mansion. Traveling 700 li overnight, back and forth would make it 1,400 li. Even a martial arts grandmaster would be exhausted from running such a long distance and still wouldn't reach my speed. This Earth Element Talisman should perhaps be called a Divine Travel Talisman. Lu Qing was extremely satisfied with the effect of the Earth Element Talisman. A slight pity was that, at this moment, the glow representing the Earth Element Talisman in the space of his brow chakra had dimmed significantly. At most, it could only support him for another 100 or 200 li before it completely dissipated. But this result was enough to satisfy Lu Qing. The methods of the rune path, upon first use, had brought him a great surprise. It was worth the vast amount of effort he had spent these past 2 years refining Divine Soul Talismans. After marveling at the wonder of the rune path, Lu Qing finally raised his head to look at the mountain ahead. On the midsection of the mountain, a brightly lit house was visible, and faintly, one could hear the noise of people and the sound of musical instruments playing. It was easy to imagine the liveliness inside. Looking up at the mountain, Lu Qing's expression was calm. 2 years ago, Shadow had been defeated by him, and before dying, revealed many of the Seven Killings Tower outposts to him. One of these was the camp before him, which was also the closest to Song County. According to the information given by Shadow, the strongest guardian in this outpost was merely at the Great Success realm of the inner organs, nowhere near a match for him. However, out of caution, Lu Qing decided not to charge in frontally. He took out a set of soft armor from his Chenquan bag and put it on. This soft armor was originally taken from Shadow. In the outpost of the Seven Killings Tower, with many traps around, this soft armor would provide him with an extra layer of protection from hidden threats. After gearing up in his soft armor, Lu Qing then put on a set of black night clothes prepared in advance and wore a black headgear that only revealed his eyes. More so, after putting on the headgear, the qi blood in his body surged, and his entire physique began to change. He became much thinner, and even the face beneath the headgear completely altered. He was using the secret technique unique to the Seven Killings Tower, the bone and muscle changing technique. As for the origin of this technique, it was a bit of a long story. In the 2 years following Shadow, Lu Qing had encountered 3 more assassination attempts by the Seven Killings Tower. It was from these 3 assassins that he finally acquired the long-coveted bone and muscle-changing technique. Of course, in the acquisition process, he inevitably employed some rather extreme methods. Although these methods were somewhat cruel, facing people intent on assassinating him, Lu Qing was not one to show mercy. A little torment posed no burden on his conscience. After altering his physical appearance and facial features, he used the Divine Soul Talisman to completely conceal his aura. Only then did Lu Qing stealthily proceed up the mountain. Chapter 254, Night Slaughter Siege. When Lu Qing was preparing to stealthily ascend the mountain, in the village within a secret attic, several figures exuding a strong aura were discussing something. Tower Master, this evening I've just received a message from headquarters asking us to find out Lu Qing's true strength in Song County at any cost. A slender figure said. Lu Qing again, how can we find out? Over the past 2 years, we've already lost 4 heavenly gang assassins at his hands. Trying to scout his strength is like sending us to our deaths. Isn't it? A large man dressed in brocade robes growled irritably. Hearing the name Lu Qing now always upset him. In these 2 years, their Seven Killings Tower had definitively lost 4 heavenly gang-level assassins to him. Those few dead were just dead. The assassins of the Seven Killings Tower always had a very detached relationship, each other's rival. He had no inclination to feel sentimental for his rivals. What was key, those few before their deaths had all departed from his location. And yet, when they died, not a single piece of information about Lu Qing could be passed on, which had already earned him several scoldings from headquarters. These useless things, still holding positions of the Heavenly Gang, yet so incompetent that they can't handle a mere internal organ realm youngster. Those old men at headquarters too, insisting on issuing the 7 killings order. You're in a tough spot now. If that youngster survives 7 assassination attempts, I'd like to see how you step down. The man in brocade couldn't help cursing in his heart, offending those at headquarters as well. But after cursing, he was still left with a headache. Nowadays, all signs indicated that Lu Qing's strength was extraordinary. Even the heavenly gang-level assassins were fully no match for him. He might even possess some secret technique that allowed him to see through their 7 killings tower stealth and disguise secret techniques. Otherwise, it was hard to explain why 4 consecutive heavenly gang-level assassins not only failed in their assassinations but also had no chance to flee, unable to send back any information. Yet, headquarters kept urging him to quickly find out Lu Qing's true strength. Such a deadly task, how was he supposed to investigate? He had no intention of vying for a position among the heavenly gang, and he certainly didn't want any association with that little monster. Moreover, to risk his life gathering information for those brats at headquarters? No way. Tower Master, Mr. Zheng wants to see you. As the brocade-clad man fretted, a subordinate came to report. What now? What does that second-generation heir want to do? The brocade-clad man asked. He says he enjoyed playing with those 2 girls last time and wants something more thrilling this time, hoping you can arrange it. That waste, possessing no useful skills, relying on being a direct descendant of the Zheng family. He spends his days indulging in folly without doing any real work. It's just about toying with women. Those 2 girls last time, he nearly played them to death. What more does he want? In any case, he asks you to come out. Damn it, this second-generation heir. If it weren't for my need to hide my identity, I really would love to crush him to death and grind him into a human stick. The brocade-clad man couldn't help swearing. Tower Master, be careful of what you say. The walls have ears. The slender figure couldn't help but remind him. All right, I know. You go out first, have him wait. I'll go see him in a bit. The brocade-clad man was merely venting his frustration. He knew headquarters was setting up a large scheme, and every outpost had taken significant effort to establish. If he acted impulsively and exposed their location, he would face serious punishment. So, he really could not touch that waste from the Zheng family now. Otherwise, drawing the attention of the Zheng family, they might no longer be able to hide. Lu Qing stealthily made his way up the mountain as quietly as a whisper. The divine soul talisman perfectly concealed all his aura. With the camouflaging effect of his night suit, even innate realm experts could hardly detect his presence. Thus, Lu Qing easily infiltrated the village. Upon entering the village, its liveliness became even clearer. The noise of voices and brightly lit scenes displayed a place steeped in debauchery. This feeling, similar to the happy village he had annihilated in the past, was quite detestable to Lu Qing. Indeed, according to the intelligence provided by Shadow, this outpost was quite similar to the happy village. It served as a brothel and a gambling house run by the Seven Killings Tower, specifically used to gather and exchange intelligence. Of course, most of the pleasure seekers visiting did not know that this place was under the control of the Seven Killings Tower. After entering the village, Lu Qing activated his superpower, hiding in a covert spot and using his divine soul power to sense the entire situation in the village. 57 martial artists, among them 20 in the muscle-bone realm, 5 in the internal organ realm, the rest are Qi-blood realm martial artists. A few moments later, realization appeared in Lu Qing's eyes. He was also greatly surprised. This place was just a minor outpost, yet it possessed so many martial arts experts. With just the martial arts expertise here, it could crush any force in Song County, apart from the Wei family. The Seven Killings Tower truly deserved its reputation as a top sect. Its foundations were indeed exceedingly profound. Let's start with you two then. Lu Qing's gaze fell on two figures in a raised pavilion behind the village gate. Under his scrutiny, the two at the top clearly bore the identity of members of the Seven Killings Tower. TSK. TSK. With a flick of his fingers, Lu Qing used hidden weapon techniques to dispatch two steel needles. Driven by his formidable strength, the needles flew out with a light sound, immediately piercing through the heads of the two Qi Blood Realm guards from the Seven Killings Tower. Chapter 255. After taking care of two apparent guards, Lu Qing did not hesitate, flipping his hand and throwing two more steel needles, aiming directly at a blind spot on the village wall. In that spot, although it was dim and nothing could be seen clearly, his divine soul sensing allowed him to distinctly sense two presences hiding there. And their breathing frequency was identical to the two guards on the high pavilion above. Obviously, these people were cultivating the same cultivation technique. Under Lu Qing's steel needles, the two figures in the dark similarly trembled. They couldn't even grunt as their breath quickly dissipated. Moreover, the faint whistling of the needles was drowned out by the laughter and revelry in the village, not stirring the slightest alarm. Having swiftly taken out 4 guards, Lu Qing did not pause and directly rushed towards the nearest martial artist's presence, sensed by his divine soul sensing. Covered by the aura of a divine soul talisman, Lu Qing moved ghost-like right in front of a Qi Blood Realm martial artist. Seeing the Seven Killings Tower member tag displayed above the opponent's head, he did not hesitate and twisted the person's neck. Just like that, Lu Qing, relying on his strong stealth ability, quickly harvested the lives of 7 Killings Tower members in the village. In just over a dozen breaths' time, more than 10 assassins from the 7 Killings Tower had fallen to his hands. This number included 3 assassins from the Muscle-Bone Realm. After all, with Lu Qing's present strength, there was no difference between the Qi Blood Realm and Muscle-Bone Realm. None could withstand his single move. However, his slaughter could not continue so smoothly indefinitely. Every once in a while, the guards in charge of watching over the village, both visible and hidden, had to contact each other via a secret technique to ensure they were safe and alert. When Lu Qing snapped the neck of the 13th 7 Killings Tower assassin, finally, the village side also realized something was wrong. Suddenly, alarms rang out and numerous lights lit up, illuminating the entire village brightly. Several powerful presences appeared above the most majestic central building. At the same time, a loud voice rang out. Which master has come to make a joke with our Yuanyang village? Why not show yourself? Seeing that they had noticed him, Lu Qing no longer hid his presence, and threw the corpse in his hand forward, walking out from the shadows. Slap! Seeing the corpse that fell to the ground, the burly man who had just spoken squinted his eyes towards Lu Qing. Who are you? Why have you intruded into our Yuanyang village? And why have you ruthlessly killed our people? If you don't provide an explanation today, it will be difficult for you to leave. Lu Qing looked up towards the building. He saw quite a few people standing above. After a brief look, he realized some of them were not members of the Seven Killings Tower, likely those who had come here for pleasure. Seeing Lu Qing wrapped tightly, showing only a glimpse of his face and not only ignoring the village chief's words but also brazenly scrutinizing them, a middle-aged man in the muscle-bone realm immediately shouted, "You rat, our village chief is speaking to you. Are you not going to respond quickly?" Lu Qing stayed silent, using his superpower to meticulously scrutinize everyone's identity. Suddenly, his gaze paused on a luxuriously dressed young man holding a jade fan, and his pupils constricted slightly. Just then, the young man closed his fan with a smile and said, "Chief Long, it seems your Yuanyang village has encountered some trouble. Would the young master need to lend a hand? The condition is rather simple, just hoping that the village chief could satisfy the earlier proposal." "No need. This small matter can be handled by our Yuanyang village. Why bother second young Master Zhang with such an effort?" Recalling this second-generation scion's earlier proposal, the man in brocaded clothes showed a hint of disdain in his eyes and refused. "What a pity." The young man's face showed disappointment. "But if Chief Long needs help at any time, this young master is quite willing to lend a hand. There's no need for such courtesies. Soon you won't be able to escape either." Before the brocaded-clothed man could speak, Lu Qing, who had already identified the identities of the people upstairs using his superpower, suddenly spoke in a calm voice. "I originally came here today just to settle accounts with people from the Seven Killings Tower, but I've changed my mind. You scum, all deserve to die." The words Seven Killings Tower sent a heavy shock through the hearts of the man in brocaded clothes and others. But before they could react, Lu Qing's hand suddenly produced a steel needle. The next moment, with a hissing sound, the needle tore through the air, swiftly shooting towards the people on the high building. "Be careful, young master." "Ah! Master of the tower, save me." Accompanied by a series of screams, those who had been high above on the building, except for a few, ended up tumbling down like gourds. Those luckier were merely penetrated by the steel needle, sustaining flesh wounds, while the less fortunate ones had their skulls pierced, dying instantly. "What?" The brocade-clad man looked at the platform strewn with corpses, and at the steel needles shimmering coldly, that after piercing through skulls, were still deeply embedded in the wall. His heart shook violently. Just now, the steel needles Lu Qing had released had almost caught even him off guard. This intruder to the village had such formidable hidden weapon skills. Second young Master Zhang was at this moment dumbfounded, staring ahead of himself. In front of him was a steel shield, a steel needle deeply lodged in it, having pierced almost entirely through, leaving only the tip, clamped by the shield, pointed directly at his face. Looking at the coldly shimmering steel needle, mere inches away from him, second young Master Zhang turned deathly pale, a chill crawling up his spine, his sweat flowing profusely. How could he not realize that if it weren't for the able protection, this needle could have easily taken his life? But after the fear, what followed was an unbearable anger. Who was this scoundrel daring to make a move against him? However, before second young Master Zhang had time to erupt in fury, a calm voice had already resounded by his side. "Oh, you're not dead. It seems your guard is somewhat competent." Everyone was startled. It turned out that at some point, Lu Qing had already ascended the building, silently standing atop the balustrade. "Young master, silence, retreat." Just as second young Master Zhang was about to shout and scold, a guard pushed him back, using the shield to protect him, staring at Lu Qing with utmost vigilance. And inwardly he was terribly shocked. His shield, made from 100 refinement steel, had been pierced by this man's tiny steel needle. Such mastery of hidden weapons was simply inconceivable. Even the hidden weapon masters in the state mansion might not compare. Who was this mysterious and powerful master? Faced with the Zheng family guard's cautiousness, Lu Qing remained unmoved, shifting his gaze lightly towards the brocade-clad man and the others. "Are you the tower master of this 7 Killings Tower outpost?" The brocade-clad man's heart quivered, but his face showed a tragic expression. "What 7 Killings Tower? Sir, perhaps you're mistaken. This place is Yuanyang Village. Sir, you barge in, relying on your martial prowess to slaughter. Aren't you afraid of becoming the laughingstock of the world? Nice act, but it won't work on me." Lu Qing shook his head slightly. "Tonight, you all must die. Attack!" In that moment, the brocade-clad man suddenly roared. Following his shout, several figures suddenly burst from hiding, pouncing towards Lu Qing. Simultaneously, a black short sword appeared in the hands of the brocade-clad man, its blade flashing as it stabbed straight towards Lu Qing's chest. The Zheng family guard's eyes suddenly widened. This collaborative strike was unexpected. Before those figures appeared, he hadn't noticed these people at all. Such art of concealment. He recalled Lu Qing's earlier words, a thought flashing through his mind. Could these people really be assassins from the 7 Killings Tower? But before he had time to ponder further, his attention was involuntarily drawn to the confrontation before him. The aura burst from these figures and the brocade-clad man was extremely powerful, all reaching the realm of internal organs. Even if the man in black was powerful, he surely couldn't resist the attack of so many masters. However, just as this thought flickered through the Zheng family guard's mind, the next instant, his eyes were compelled to widen again. Suddenly, an immensely powerful aura burst forth from the man in black. Immediately after, the brocade-clad man and the several figures emitting powerful auras were all sent flying. How is this possible? The Zheng family guard could no longer hold back, exclaiming in shock. Chapter 256. Everyone killed, mindset changed. Facing the assault of the people from 7 Killings Tower, Lu Qing remained calm. As the attack was about to land on him, his aura suddenly exploded. His body spun like a top, twirling rapidly. With his hands moving as swiftly as lightning, he struck consecutively. In an instant, a myriad of fist shadows appeared, blossoming like a black lotus. Those several powerful assassins from 7 Killings Tower, without exception, were all struck in the chest by Lu Qing's punches. As the sound of cracking bones rang out, they all flew backward, spewing blood which scattered all over the ground. Boom! 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 Accompanied by a series of noises, the figures who attacked Lu Qing all smashed through the walls and windows behind them, falling to the ground, lifeless and unidentifiable in their fates. How is this possible? Witnessing the richly dressed man and those powerful figures being blasted away by the man in black, the Zheng family guards showed an expression of disbelief. The auras emitted by those figures were each no weaker than his own, all of them possessing the cultivation of the internal organ realm. Even the village chief from Yuanyang Village was a martial arts grandmaster in the internal organ realm, great success. Yet the combined forces of these great masters could not subdue the man in black, and were all defeated under a single maneuver. A sneak attack by 4 men ended in 3 dead and 1 severely injured. Such strength was truly terrifying. Who exactly are you? The richly dressed man slammed against the wall behind him, spitting out a mouthful of blood, his face filled with horror. He was incredulous as he looked at Lu Qing. Just now, this man had effortlessly neutralized their long-prepared deadly moves. With just a single move, he had defeated them all. For against one, yet only he had survived. The level of his boxing skills was simply inconceivable. Even among the boxing grandmasters he had encountered, none seemed to possess such a terrifyingly exquisite technique. I've already told you, The person who will kill you. Lu Qing looked at the richly dressed man, seeing through the clothes shattered by his fist force the dark golden soft armor underneath. It seems this soft armor has saved your life. The richly dressed man hesitated. Indeed, if not for this soft armor which he never removed, he would have likely met the same fate as his companions, dead and gone. Even so, he was still gravely injured. Of his full strength, only 2 to 3% remained. The punching power of this mysterious man in black was too terrifying. Even with the protection of soft armor, it had still severely damaged his vital veins and dispersed his martial arts chi blood, which he found difficult to gather again. More importantly, even now, he had yet to see through Lu Qing's cultivation. The opponent stood as if enshrouded in layers of thick fog, perfectly concealing his realm even as his chi blood erupted. Could this be an old monster from the innate realm? Yet the power he utilized was chi blood power, not innate true chi. The richly dressed man was in utter turmoil, thoughts swirling chaotically, unable to clear his mind. But one thing he understood very clearly, and that was that today his troubles had indeed become immense. The man in black in front of him was clearly targeting Seven Killings Tower. Although he found it hard to believe that anyone in the world would dare provoke Seven Killings Tower, the fact was right before his eyes, undeniable. Seeing that the richly dressed man wasn't dead, Lu Qing flipped his hand, and from nowhere, produced a fist-sized stone, weighing it lightly. A chill shot through the richly dressed man's heart. Having witnessed Lu Qing's skill with hidden weapons, he dared not underestimate him. He hurriedly exclaimed, "Sir, there must be some misunderstanding. This place is not what you call Seven Killings Tower. I am merely a businessman with no ties to Seven Killings Tower. If it's money you want, I am willing to offer all the wealth here with both hands." However, before the richly dressed man could finish speaking, the stone in Lu Qing's hand had already flown out. Driven by formidable power, the stone's speed was extreme. The richly dressed man, his vitality severely damaged and chi blood dispersed, couldn't react in time to dodge. Bang! The stone struck the richly dressed man's head with incredible precision. Despite the tough skull of a martial artist at the internal organ realm great success, it was as fragile as an eggshell under the terrifying force of the stone hurled by Lu Qing. It exploded instantly, scattering a gruesome mix of red and white. The richly dressed man, dead. Ah! Second young Master Zhang, who had never seen such a horrifying spectacle, screamed in terror. Not good. The Zhang family guard, holding a shield, was shocked and tried to cover the young master's mouth. But it was too late. Lu Qing's gaze had already turned in their direction. "Sir, we are from the Zhang family of the State Mansion, here just for amusement, and have no connections with these people. We kindly ask for your discernment." The Zhang family guard spoke bravely. As for second young Master Zhang, facing Lu Qing's gaze, he was already shivering, his face pale. At this moment, he knew all too well that the man before him was a true killer, unlike any martial artist he had ever encountered. Seeing Lu Qing remain silent, the Zhang family guard felt incredibly uneasy. Although the Zhang family held substantial power, ranking highly in the entire state mansion, and could even garner some recognition from the major sects that dominated Song State, faced with such a bloodthirsty and ruthless man, he wasn't sure if the other party would show any consideration. Zhang family? What of it? Lu Qing's voice was hoarse as he sneered darkly. "Don't talk to me about some small Zhang family. Even if people from the Yan family of the royal capital offend me, they must die too." Chapter 257. Run, young master, run. The guard had felt something was wrong the moment Lu Qing spoke the first word, and by the time Lu Qing uttered the word dead, he hadn't hesitated at all to make a decision. He suddenly pushed second young Master Zhang behind him with a gentle force. At the same time, his right hand reached to his waist, drawing a short knife, while he himself held a shield, using his left shoulder as a pivot. Integrated with the shield, he charged at Lu Qing with fierce bravery. He wanted to push Lu Qing away to buy his young master time to escape. However, his plan was far too optimistic. Facing the imposing shield coming at him fiercely like a battering ram, Lu Qing didn't flinch or dodge. His fingers splayed, his palm drew a circular arc, pressing down on the shield with the force of a mountain. Boom! Under the overwhelming force, the 100 refinement steel shield shattered into pieces, and the Zheng family guard hidden behind it vomited blood wildly, his bones breaking more than he could count. How could he be so strong? After just one move, nearly disabled, the Zheng family guard sat collapsed on the ground, his face filled with despair. Lu Qing's strength was beyond his imagination. Even the martial arts grandmasters in the residence weren't nearly as oppressively powerful as this. Who was this mysterious figure? And since when did such a fearsome martial arts expert appear in Song State? Your loyalty is commendable, but unfortunately, the person you're protecting is scum. Lu Qing looked at the severely injured guard, shook his head, and said. His feet didn't stop moving. He stepped past the guard towards second young Master Zheng, who was too frightened and weak-kneed to run. No, don't kill me, please, I beg you, don't kill me. If you kill me, my Zheng family will never let you go. My father will definitely not let you go. Seeing Lu Qing approaching, the already terrified second young Master Zheng screamed frantically. Esteemed sir, we really have nothing to do with this village. Please, in consideration of the Zheng family's face, spare our young master. We swear, once we return, we will not leak a word about what happened today. The Zheng family guard, enduring his pain, spoke with difficulty. Do you think I want to kill this trash just to silence him? Lu Qing stopped, turned, and asked strangely. The Zheng family guard was taken aback. Aside from that reason, he couldn't think of any other motives. Really, you who come from a great family, regard human life as mere grass. To tell you the truth, I want to kill him not for any other reason, but merely to seek justice for those girls he tortured to death. The guard's eyes suddenly widened, as if he had finally realized something. However, the next moment, he saw a pebble being flicked from Lu Qing's hand. Then, his young master's head burst open like a rotten watermelon. Young master! The Zheng family guard cried out in agony. I was going to spare your life, but your words just now enlightened me. Casually having killed second young Master Zheng, Lu Qing turned around. This scum who humiliated and murdered those girls. You were there too, weren't you? Your Excellency, it's because of those brothel women that you harbored the intention to kill my young master? The Zheng family guard asked blankly. Exactly. Isn't that reason enough? The Zheng family guard fell silent. He wanted to say, no, of course not. Those lowly people, being so humble in status, even 1,000, 10,000 of them combined could never compare to the nobility of their young master. But he also knew, since Lu Qing asked this way, obviously, in his mind, this reason was already sufficient. So he could only remain silent. However, although he didn't speak, Lu Qing discerned the answer he wanted from his expression. He sneered. It seems just as I thought. Well then, you two go and accompany your young master. A swishing sound was heard as another pebble was flicked by Lu Qing, directly aiming for the guard's head. Puff! A muffled sound. A blood hole appeared in the center of the Zheng family guard's forehead. His body shook, his eyes gradually dimmed, and then he fell heavily to the ground, his life essence fading away. Having dealt with the guard, Lu Qing didn't linger and slowly walked towards the building. As he passed the corpse of an internal organ realm assassin who had tried to ambush him, he suddenly kicked the corpse's temple. The body that should have been dead suddenly opened its eyes, full of disbelief, as if unable to believe that his disguise had been so easily seen through by Lu Qing. Lu Qing remained calm. Although the assassin had mastered the art of feigning death to a profound degree, it was all too obvious under his divine soul sensing, not to mention he also possessed superpower. Even someone from the innate realm could not hide their aura from him, let alone a mere martial artist from the internal organ realm. After killing the feigning man, Lu Qing took his time walking towards the building. All the martial artists from the internal organ realm in the entire village had been killed by him, but he still did not plan to spare the remaining members of the Seven Killings Tower. The slaughter continued. 2/4 of an hour later, when Lu Qing left Yuanyang village, the entire village was already littered with corpses. All the 7 Killings Tower assassins staying in the village had been found under his divine soul sensing and killed. Among some of the visitors seeking pleasure, those who he found were utterly evil were also killed by him. He even found a treasure vault and raided it with great pleasure. After doing all this, Lu Qing left without any hesitation. As for the remaining people in the village, like those women sold into servitude, if they weren't foolish, they should have fled earlier. Lu Qing had helped them by breaking the den of iniquity. That was already helping. The rest was up to their own luck. Indeed, my heart has truly become much colder. On the hillside, watching the frantic crowd fleeing the village, Lu Qing showed a self-mocking expression. If it had been him when he first came to this world, he probably would have tried to find a safe place for those pitiful women, just as he had done at Happy Village. But now, watching the panicked crowd below, his heart didn't fluctuate much, because he knew such things were all too common in this world. The ways of the world were such that he alone could hardly change anything. Could he? After all, my power is still too weak. Only those with little power have to consider and weigh every action meticulously. If I had the strength to stand alone atop the world, I could do anything I wish, follow my will without fearing anyone's opinions. With a distant look, Lu Qing gazed at the stars above. The next moment, his figure had vanished from the spot. Several quarters of an hour later, Lu Qing stopped in a mountain hollow. Indeed, without the boost from the earth element talisman, traveling indeed requires much more physical effort. Lu Qing's heart and spirit sank into the space between his eyebrows. The yellow glow that represented the earth element talisman had disappeared. Just now, after he had hurried along for more than 200 miles, the magic talisman's power was completely exhausted by Lu Qing. Without the support of talisman power, his body became heavy again, and naturally, he could no longer move as nimbly and swiftly. Indeed, it's easy to slip into luxury from frugality, but difficult to revert back. Lu Qing sighed, accustomed to the lightness and speed of traveling under the support of the earth element talisman. He felt quite uneasy returning to the sluggish pace of using his own legs. He looked around, found a dry big stone, and sat down on it. After concentrating and calming himself, he formed a seal technique with both hands and began to refine talismans. With a successful experience prior, this time refining the earth element talisman took even less time. Less than 1/4 of an hour, and it was done. With a slight movement of the spell, he stored the earth element talisman back into the space of the talisman between his eyebrows. Looking at the earth element talisman turning into a glow, Lu Qing showed a faint smile of satisfaction. It's not that he didn't want to gather several earth element talismans for emergencies. But with his current strength of divine soul, there were limits to the divine soul talisman. At a time, he could only accommodate no more than 5 magic talismans, and for talismans of the same attribute, only one could be stored. If he wished to store and control more talismans, unless his divine soul power broke through, it would not be possible. Feeling the glow in the cavity, Lu Qing's will flickered, and that strange power reappeared, making his body light again. With a small smile, he exerted force with his legs, once again heading towards home. Chapter 258. Another powerful trump card. Zheng family's ancestor. When Lu Qing returned to Jili village, it was still dark and dawn had not yet come. No one knew that he had traveled back and forth over 1,000 miles overnight and completely annihilated a 7 Killings Tower outpost hundreds of miles away. Sitting cross-legged on the wooden bed and after regaining his breath, Lu Qing began to ponder. He was primarily summarizing the gains and losses of tonight's battle. First of all, there was nothing noteworthy about the opponent. Yuanyang village was just an ordinary outpost of the 7 Killings Tower, although it had several internal organ realm assassins and was heavily guarded with both conspicuous and hidden sentries. But to Lu Qing, who possessed the power of the divine soul, this was as good as non-existent. The few internal organ realm assassins, led by a man in brocade garb, had not put any pressure on him at all. Couldn't be helped. His current accumulation of power was simply too vast, already far beyond the scope of an ordinary postnatal realm martial artist. Lu Qing estimated that, with his current strength within the postnatal realm, perhaps only legendary peerless geniuses or children of fate could pressure him. Or those direct descendants trained by top sects, possessing various powerful secret techniques. Others, even martial arts grandmasters who had cultivated their divine soul power, were probably not his match in a normal state, let alone forcing out his various trump cards. Even ordinary innate realm ones, he would have to actually fight to know. This retaliation did not surprise Lu Qing. Rather, the process had brought him quite a surprise. The biggest surprise was the effect of the Earth Element Talisman. A single Earth Element Talisman allowed him to traverse 1,000 miles without fatigue. Such an auxiliary effect was indeed astonishing. This also made Lu Qing realize that although he could currently only store 5 magic talismans in the space of his brow chakra, and only one of each attribute, if used properly, these 5 talismans would become one of his greatest trump cards. With a talisman condensed from primordial chi having such miraculous effects, I wonder what power those spirit talismans refined with spiritual energy in the legacy would possess. Lu Qing couldn't help but imagine. The rune path is a very unique cultivation system. It takes the natural world as its teacher. Thus it has strong adaptability and is not constrained by the immediate cultivation environment. In periods where spiritual energy is rich and the path of immortal cultivation thrives, it bases itself on spiritual energy to condense various strange spirit talismans for combat and self-enhancement. In eras where spiritual energy is scarce, it uses heaven and earth primordial chi to condense primordial energy talismans, and although its power is much less than that of spirit talismans, it still possesses various unusual abilities. Lu Qing had already experienced the strength of the primordial energy talismans. Naturally, he anticipated even more the stronger spirit talismans. With the recovery of spiritual energy imminent, if the power of the spirit talismans is strong enough, then his cultivation in the rune path, even without switching to immortal cultivation, would not fear anyone. After mulling over the rune path, Lu Qing thoroughly reviewed the process of this journey. After ensuring he had not overlooked or neglected anything, and his identity was exposed, he then lay down to rest for a while. Just as Lu Qing was resting in his dreams, elsewhere in the Zheng Mansion of the famous Zhangzhou State Mansion, an incredibly oppressive atmosphere was enveloping the area. "Are you telling me this is Yuer?" In the main hall of Zheng Mansion, the imposing Zheng family master was asking with an icy face. Before him, several guards were kneeling on the ground, and in the center, 2 bodies covered with white silk were lying. One had their brow chakra pierced, and the other had their entire head blown off, leaving a headless corpse. Hearing the family master's question, the kneeling guards trembled and started shivering, none daring to answer. As for the other guards and servants in the hall, they were as silent as cicadas in winter, not even daring to breathe too loudly, desperately trying to minimize their presence. Who could have imagined that the second son would die just from a trip outside? If the old ancestor knew, it's hard to say how many would die. "I'm asking you all a question. Has everyone gone deaf?" Zheng family master's face grew even colder. Feeling the family head's increasingly icy gaze, finally, a guard with a trembling voice struggled to speak. Replying to the family head, "When the second young master left the mansion this afternoon, he was wearing this very outfit, and he was accompanied by Commander Yang here. So, Yuer was killed within less than a day after he went out. Not even a complete body could be left behind. Who can tell me what happened? And where exactly did he go this afternoon?" The guard was about to respond when suddenly, a suppressed atmosphere arrived, with several figures walking out from the inner hall. Leading them was an old woman, supported by a middle-aged, beautiful woman. "Mother, why have you gotten up?" Zheng family master saw her and hurriedly went forward to help support the old woman. The guards and servants in the hall lowered their heads even further. "Humph! Why have I gotten up? I had just gone to sleep not long ago when I heard Yan Yan come crying, saying something had happened to Yuer. Is this true?" The old lady snorted, and her dragon-headed cane lightly tapped the ground, causing a muffled sound and a slight tremor. It turned out that the dragon-headed cane was made of metal, extremely heavy. Zhang family master's heart lurched, and he stealthily glanced at his wife. Then he sadly said, "Mother, I too just learned of this incident. Yuer has been killed." "What did you say?" Hearing this, the old lady's eyes widened in shock, a terrifying aura emanating from her. "Yuer has been killed. Where is he?" "Right in front of you. The guards say that this headless corpse is Yuer, but I haven't had time to verify it yet." The old woman suddenly turned her head to look at the two corpses on the ground. When she had come out earlier, she had not failed to notice these two corpses, but because they were covered with white silk, their attire was not clear. She could never have imagined that one of them would turn out to be her most beloved grandson. The middle-aged beautiful woman, too, looked shocked upon hearing this. She had merely heard from her maid that the second young master had met with some trouble, but she had never expected that he was dead. Gazing at the headless corpse, the old woman's hands trembled slightly. Yet she was no ordinary person and, with strong will, suppressed her emotions, her voice sounding a bit hoarse. "Green Nanny, go check it." "Yes, mistress." As the old woman gestured, a green-clothed nanny with a somewhat strange aura walked forward, gently lifting the white silk off the headless corpse. Seeing the clothes on the corpse, the old woman's fingers slightly trembled. She remembered Yuer had come to greet her this morning wearing this very outfit. Green-clothed Nanny's hand also paused momentarily, but she gently unfolded the clothing on the corpse. Then, when she saw a distinctive birthmark on the corpse's chest, she did not continue, but covered the body again and stepped back. She approached the old woman and softly reported, "Mistress, it is indeed young Master Yuer." The old woman's body swayed, as if she was about to collapse. "Mother!" Zhang family master, who had been watching intently, hurriedly stepped forward to help support her. "Get away!" However, in the next moment, a terrifying aura burst forth from the old woman, directly pushing him back. Who was it who would dare kill my Yuer, and with such cruel methods? It was as if chilling words had ascended from the Nine Netherworld, spoken by the old woman. Her clenched teeth and demeanor seemed as though she would tear someone apart. Chapter 259. Rage, Resentment, Human Sacrifice. "Speak. Where did Yuer die and how did she die? You will explain everything to me in detail. Otherwise, I will have you all buried with Yuer." In the main hall of Zhang Mansion, an old woman exuded an asphyxiating chill as she stared at the few kneeling guards. Her lips, wrinkled like old tree bark, uttered each word deliberately. Although the guards were chilled to the bone, they still shivered as they recounted what they knew. The second young master's corpse was found in a place called Yuanyang Village outside the city. Yesterday, we followed the second young master out of the city, and before we reached a mountain stronghold, the second young master found a reason to send us away, asking us to wait for him at the foot of the mountain. He then took only Commander Yang with him into the stronghold. That stronghold, known as Yuanyang Village, is a place for people to seek pleasures. At this point, the guard was suddenly interrupted by the old woman, who shouted, "Nonsense! Yuer was so sensible and well-behaved. How could she go to such a filthy place?" The guard was so frightened that he fell silent, and his body lay even flatter, trembling more violently. "Mother," said the Zhang family master gently. The old woman snorted, "Continue." "Yes, elder ancestor." The guard's body shook, and he chose his words even more carefully. After the second young master entered the stronghold, it wasn't long before we heard chaotic noises coming from the mountain, and many people fled in panic. Sensing something was wrong, we rushed to the top quickly, only to find a gruesome scene with corpses everywhere, all of them martial arts experts. Both the second young master and Commander Yang had met with misfortune. Commander Yang's refined iron shield had been shattered by a single palm strike, his bones broken, and a fatal hole pierced through his brow. At this point, the guard's heart began to tremble uncontrollably. Commander Yang was a formidable martial arts expert, having achieved small success in the internal organ realm, and his technique with the shield and sword was exquisite. Even great success martial artists from the internal organ realm might not necessarily be able to defeat him. Yet such a powerful figure as Commander Yang had met his end, and one could only imagine the terrifying strength of the assailant. So, you mean to say that as Yuer's guards, you didn't even catch a glimpse of the murderer? The old woman said faintly. The guard felt a deep chill and quickly replied, replying to Elder Ancestor, although we didn't capture the assassin. Once we discovered the young master's body, we immediately detained a group of people trying to flee the village to interrogate them. From them, we learned that the killer was a person in black night clothes. This person was incredibly strong, like a ghostly apparition, and he alone was responsible for all the slaughters in Yuanyang village. Moreover, we learned from some guests that the black-clothed person loudly proclaimed that Yuanyang village was actually a base of the Seven Killings Tower. His massacre was meant as revenge against the Seven Killings Tower, which is why he spared those guests. What did you say, Seven Killings Tower? Are you sure you heard correctly? Asked the Zhang family master, his body trembling as he hurried to ask. The old woman's expression also stiffened, and a sharp glint flashed in her eyes. Subordinate swears, I did not mishear. We interrogated more than 10 people and they all said the same. The guard insisted urgently. So, the Seven Killings Tower has already set up a base here? The Zhang family master looked grave. This sect, which dominated most of the assassin world's forces, had always been in Central State. When did it become interested in a remote place like Tsang State? What shocked him even more was that someone dared to provoke the Seven Killings Tower, eradicating one of its bases so brazenly. Then, who was this person and what was their purpose? For a moment, Zhang family master sharply sensed an unusual meaning. Many thoughts also emerged in the old woman's heart. Yet all of this still did not compare to the pain of losing her grandson. Since you say the target was Seven Killings Tower, why did he kill my Yuer? The old woman's eyes emitted a terrifying light, staring intensely at the house guard. Are you lying? What exactly is going on here? Your venerable ancestor, every word I spoke is true, with no exaggeration or deceit. I dare not lie to your venerable ancestor. The guard immediately cried out in a grievance. Then tell me, why did the man in black want to kill Yuer? Isn't Yuer a guest too? It's because... The guard stammered, clearly afraid to speak. Because of what? Speak. If you don't speak, I'll take your life with one slap, the old woman said fiercely. I only learned this from a guest. That guest said when the second young master and Commander Yang were killed, he was hiding in a corner in the tower. He overheard the man in black say, the reason for killing the second young master was to seek justice for those brothel girls who died under the second young master's insult and abuse. Damn it! Before the guard could finish speaking, the old woman could no longer contain her rage. Her refined iron dragon-headed cane suddenly lashed out, fiercely striking the guard in the chest. Struck heavily, the guard had no strength to resist. With the sound of snapping bones, his body flew backward, spewing a mouthful of fresh blood mid-air before crashing heavily to the ground. His chest caved in, clearly he wouldn't survive. Those worthless brothel whores, utterly despicable. How can they compare to my Yuer? Even 1,000, 10,000 of them. They are not worth a single hair of my Yuer. Shameless villain. How dare you dishonor Yuer? Dishonor our Zhang family. No matter who you are, I will definitely find you, torture you to death, and crush you into thousands of pieces. After sending a guard flying, the old woman's fury did not subside in the slightest, her face full of vicious wrath as she enunciated each word. The terrifying aura emanating from her not only made it hard for everyone in the hall to breathe, it even alarmed the people outside the mansion. Seeing the old matriarch so ruthless, the kneeling guards trembled even more violently, their legs weakening, almost unable to stay kneeling, collapsing to the ground. Even so, the old woman still did not intend to spare them. And you, I tasked you with protecting Yuer, yet you all shirked your duties. Not only must you die, but your families as well must accompany you to the afterlife. The guards were shocked upon hearing this and were about to beg for mercy when they saw the old woman's dragon-headed cane rapidly striking their vital points. Suddenly, the kneeling guards trembled. Their gazes became vacant, and they collapsed to the ground, lifeless. On their faces remained the horror of their final moments. The scent of blood permeated, turning everyone in the hall pale, without a trace of color. It took a while before Zhang family master stepped forward, supporting the old woman. "Mother, the dead cannot be brought back to life. You're in poor health. You should take care of yourself." "Don't worry, I'm not dead yet," the old woman said coldly. "Have someone prepare the best coffin. I want to properly tend to Yuer's body. And those useless guards who failed to protect Yuer have now died. That's too light a punishment for them. Bring their families here. I want all of them to accompany Yuer in burial." "Mother!" Zhang family master exclaimed in alarm. "Sacrificing the living is a great taboo. Both the royal capital and Holy Mountain have strictly forbidden it." "Humph, who said I'm going to sacrifice the living? As long as people die before they are buried, that doesn't count as a living sacrifice, does it? Yuer died so miserably. He lost his father at a young age, and now below, who knows how lonely and helpless he must be. If I send more people down to serve him, is that not right?" "But, mother!" Zhang family master still wanted to say something, but he saw the old woman glaring at him. "What? Do you think that with your elder brother dead, there's no one left to decide for Yuer, that even my commands are to be defied?" Seeing his mother's gaze, Zhang family master's heart shuddered. He could only say, "I wouldn't dare. I will arrange it for you right away." Chapter 260 Madness. "Moreover, I want you to use whatever means necessary to find the villain who killed Yuer. I will not rest until he is tortured to death and his body is torn into 10,000 pieces." The old woman gritted her teeth as she spoke. Her tone was chillingly cold, making one's heart feel cold upon hearing it. "Mother!" Zhang family master hesitated upon hearing this. Since that person dared to oppose Seven Killings Tower, his identity and background must also be extraordinary. "If we investigate further." However, before he could finish, the old woman looked at him with an icy gaze. "So, we should just let go of Yuer's vengeance? Is that it?" Zhang family master hesitated, swallowing his saliva before saying, "My child did not mean that, but he believes we should consider this matter in the long term." "Consider in the long term? It seems to me you wish to drag this matter out, preferably until after my death, right?" Old Lady Zhang scoffed. "My child dares not." Zhang family master shuddered and quickly bowed his head. "Humph, only you know what you are really thinking. Now, I want to know if this dying old woman can still be the head of the Zhang family. Mother is the pillar of our family, holding up the entire Zhang family. Naturally, you are in charge. If I can still be in charge of the Zhang family, then you simply do as I say. I don't care what the cost is. But before the 7th day of Yuer's passing, you must find that man's whereabouts. I don't care who he is or how powerful his background is. I will personally take his head and place it in front of Yuer's tomb to appease his spirit in heaven." Observing his mother's fierce and fearsome demeanor, Zhang family master knew that any objection was futile. He could only lower his voice and comply. "Yes, your child will handle it immediately." Watching Zhang family master's defeated silhouette receding, old Lady Zhang's face remained indifferent. Her aura of killing intent was chillingly dense, lingering long and unyielding. The hall was deadly silent, with no one daring to make a move, not even daring to breathe loudly. Even that middle-aged, beautiful woman was dripping in cold sweat, with her back entirely soaked. Outside the Zhang mansion, 2 miles away in another colossal mansion, in a study, an elegant elderly man was leisurely writing when suddenly his expression shifted, and his wrist trembled slightly, causing the ink-drenched brush to drop a blot of ink on the paper. "The old lady of the Zhang family is going crazy again?" The elegant elderly man set down his brush, thought for a moment and signaled for a servant. "Go, call the family head here." Soon, a middle-aged man dressed in a robe, bearing a slight resemblance to the elderly man, hurriedly arrived at the courtyard. "Grandfather, you called for me?" "Just now." I sensed a terrifying killing intent suddenly emanating from that old lady of the Zheng family. "I don't know what she's planning to do now, but you should go and check." "The old ancestor of the Zheng family?" The middle-aged man was startled. "Who would dare to provoke her? Are they tired of living? That's why I'm asking you to check. This old woman's time is running out. She doesn't have many years left. And if she goes mad at this time, no one can stop her." "Yes, I will go and check now." The middle-aged man hurriedly left. Since that old lady of the Zheng family had been severely injured years ago and believed she did not have many years left to live, she had become someone no one in the state mansion dared provoke. After all, an innate realm with only a few years left to live. If she truly went mad, who could withstand her? After his grandson left, the elegant elderly man leaned back, looking at the slightly brightening sky in the distance, his emotions fluctuating. Now was a turbulent time, with dark currents surging beneath the surface. As an innate realm martial artist, he also had an innate intuition that something extremely important was about to happen. At such a time, that old lady of the Zheng family better not go mad. An hour later, the middle-aged man returned with an extremely peculiar expression on his face. He seemed a bit shocked but also a bit schadenfreude. "Did you find out?" the elegant elderly man asked indifferently. "I found out, but..." "But what?" According to the spy's information returned from the mansion, that second young master of the Zheng family was killed last night in a brothel outside the city. Even his head was blown apart. The Zheng family's ancestor is furious over this matter and has already killed several guards. The middle-aged man reported. "Second young master of the Zheng family? Is that the posthumous child of the late Zheng family's boss?" the elegant elderly man asked. "That's him, named Zheng Yu, deeply doted on by the Zheng family's ancestor, and usually very overbearing in the state mansion. It's unexpected that he would venture out of the city and get slaughtered." The middle-aged man's face bore a hint of schadenfreude. "No wonder that old lady went mad." The elegant elderly man nodded. That Zheng family boss had indeed a peerless talent. At not yet 30, he had reached the martial arts grandmaster realm, with a bright future ahead. He was expected to achieve the innate realm before the age of 40, potentially becoming Artsong State's youngest innate realm. However, unexpected fame at a young age, and a pathway of cultivation that was too smooth, is sometimes an ordeal. The Zheng family boss, being the youngest martial arts grandmaster in Song State at that time, was arrogant and thought very highly of himself, not holding the few innate realms in the state mansion in high regard. Because of the presence of the old lady Zhang and the restrictive command of Holy Mountain, we few didn't take it too much to heart, which only made him more complacent. More than 20 years ago, a mysterious innate realm arrived in Song State with his female disciple to travel. When the Zheng family boss went out for recreation, he saw that the female disciple was extraordinarily beautiful and started harboring lustful thoughts to abduct her to his mansion as a concubine. Of course, this enraged the innate realm, and he killed the Zheng family boss on the spot.